crazy thing is, this is the first time since the auto guys used to come in here. I don't have a TV. They used to do an automotive repair call-in show on Saturday mornings, and it was highly successful for decades. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Basically, yeah. But like, .606 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you, Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane, and we are off and running on this Monday morning that, quite honestly, ought to be a holiday. Oh, my goodness. Have you recovered yet? My heavens. I mean, and when I asked that question, you realize what was on the calendar for everybody over the weekend? More than 100,000 people in Tiger Stadium. Tons of people heading west to Festival International, even more heading east to Jazz Fest in New Orleans, and the number of folks who had their Catholic school fair this weekend was a pretty big number as well. What a morning for recovery. What a morning for a second cup of coffee, or in my case, 8.4 ounces of Red Bull. Delicious. Hey, it was a fantastic weekend in Baton Rouge. We've got a lot to recap this morning. And we're going to talk a lot of Garth Brooks, the aftermath of Garth Brooks. I'm going to start this off by posing a question to the YouTube audience. If you're not part of the YouTube audience, hop on in there because I want an answer to this question. Did Garth Brooks deliver for Baton Rouge, or did Baton Rouge deliver for Garth Brooks? So, full disclosure, did not go to the concert. Further full disclosure, saw about, I don't know, half a dozen live feeds from the concert, all different perspectives, all different angles. The vibe in that place was beyond electric, beyond any vibe I've ever seen. I could tell through Facebook Live. Okay, I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday. The closest I've ever seen to something like that live, that level of excitement and enthusiasm, was the Superdome when New Orleans beat Minnesota to go to the Super Bowl. That level of noise, that level of white noise, that level of just pure, unbridled joy and euphoria that's channeled into energy. And you could feel it through a Facebook Live feed, which meant I couldn't even imagine in person. To take it up to that level, I think Baton Rouge showed up and showed out big time. Now, granted, you've got the greatest country entertainer of all time. So I'll go right back to the top of the question. Or the question at the top, I should say. Did Garth Brooks deliver for Baton Rouge, or did Baton Rouge deliver for Garth Brooks? We're going to have a lot to recap, not just the show, but some of the ins and outs that went along with it. I do have to start with this. There was apparently an incident on College Drive right near I-10 after the show. And if anybody had complaints about the show, and we're going to talk about this a little bit at 6:25, if anybody had complaints about the show, it was about something that went on that might not have had anything to do with Garth Brooks at all. Baton Rouge police had to put out a statement because, well, there was all kinds of blockages and what have you. Gridlock, traffic coming to a standstill late Saturday night into Sunday morning. Posts on social media were showing a number of, well, as WBRZ puts it, automotive acrobatics. A lot of frustration coming from drivers as they were trying to get away from campus or back home in the wake of the show. Dozens of videos on social media showing scenes from all around the Saturday. One account described the night as Super Saturday, saying locations would be shared on a private page. There was a lot going on. BRPD put out a statement that said BRPD would like to thank all of the officers and EBR law enforcement personnel who made sure the Garth Brooks concert was a safe event with more than 100,000 attendees. It was a tremendous effort and job well done. We were made aware of individuals involved in reckless driving on College Drive near I-10. Units were on other calls for service and were dispatched to the scene. Officers were able to clear the scene and reopen the roadways. BRPD is aware of these individuals engaging in reckless driving, and enforcement action has been taken in the past. We've made arrests, towed vehicles, seized weapons. Excuse me? We have made arrests, towed vehicles, seized weapons, and issued citations to persons involved in this type of illegal behavior. BRPD investigators are actively investigating this incident. So the long and the short of that is other groups who knew what level of traffic was going to be on the road and when went out to make the most of it to their own end. Anyway, were you in it? What did you see? Did you go to the concert? Where would you rank it? All of it. Post it up on YouTube. Hey, we're going to have to take a quick break, come back, talk a little sports after the break. Before we take that break, though, did you tailgate all day long? Were you out on campus on Saturday tailgating for Garth Brooks? And did you happen to swing by Matthern's Market? You know they're your tailgate go-to on game day. Turns out they're your tailgate go-to on concert day as well. Matthern's, they've got two locations. One's downtown on 3rd Street. The other is the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, literally right across the street from Tiger Stadium. As summer approaches and pool season gets to be here, swinging by Matthern's for a couple of packs of craft beer, not a bad choice. Swinging by Matthern's to grab your pool snacks, not a bad choice. Swinging by Matthern's for your full-on grocery shopping, even a better choice. And, oh, by the way, if you've got the app, you're a step ahead of the game. Do your grocery shopping online, pull into the parking lot, they bring it out to you. Just one of those things that kind of popped up during COVID that's going to stick around forever, hopefully, because they do it so well, and it saves you a ton of time. It's super duper convenient, and it's available at both locations, downtown on 3rd or the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center from Matthern's. 612 at Talk 107.3 FM. We're coming back talking sports next. Yo. All right. Do what? The person who's coming in from Modesto, which I'll talk about later on. Haggai's gonna be on the phone. No. Yes. I'm sorry, what? Okay. .616 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. I got so hyped about recapping the Garth Brooks show or setting the table for where we were going to go with Garth Brooks. I didn't even run down the lineup for you today. Haggai Davis is going to be in at 6:35. He's the host of Tech Gumbo, sits in every Friday for a cup of Tech Gumbo. Haggai went to the sound check on Friday, which, how apropos is that? Tech guy goes to sound check? Of course he does. We'll talk with him at 6:35. Dylan Moses is going to hop on board at 6:52. For those of y'all that kind of recognize the name but can't really place it, yeah, Dylan Moses, I believe he went to U-High before going to IMG Academy, and then went to Alabama. He's now a professional football player, getting ready for the next season. But he's looking to give back to Baton Rouge by helping some at-risk youth on the football field this coming weekend. That's at 6:52. In our 7 o'clock hour, we're going to talk with Dr. Ronald Fields from Our Lady of the Lake about asthma in our Medical Monday segment. Stephen Wagaspack's hopping on board from LABI at 7:35. We'll get a little update on the legislative session there. Probably a little Garth Brooks recap. I don't even know if Stephen went or not. Either way. In the 7 o'clock hour, James Lee from Louisiana Swamp Watch is going to hop on board at 8:15. And then we're going to wrap things up by talking to the folks at Modesto, because today is May 2nd. And this week is going to culminate with Cinco de Mayo. So, all right, there's your rundown. Now, baseball and softball had a lot going on over the weekend out at LSU. Let's start with softball. They took the first game from Florida on Friday, 9-1. After that, it was downhill from there. Beth Torina's squad lose 1-6 on Saturday, and then took extra innings for the Florida Gators to take the series, but the Florida Gators did take the series. 2-1 your final score there. In baseball, LSU did grab a series over the weekend, pulling it home from Georgia, coming out a 6-2 winner on Friday night. They dropped Saturday's contest 7-12. Come back on Sunday, a walk-off home run gets it 4-3, your final score there. Now, Saints draft. I'm looking up at the clock. I want to make sure we have enough time here. Let's talk about the Pelicans before we get into the Saints draft. We covered a little bit of it on Friday. But as far as the Pelicans are concerned, as their season wrapped up and the NBA playoffs roll on, there was something brewing down in New Orleans as the season wore on. There was a level of excitement and a level of hype in that last month of season and into that as short as it was, a playoff run. You had 2 play-in games and a playoff series in which your 8th seed took 2 games away from the 1 seed, the best team in the NBA. You start winning like that down in New Orleans, I don't care who you are, you're going to post or start up a little bit of excitement. Sports fans in New Orleans are going to start to follow. David Griffin, VP of Basketball Operations with the Pelicans, says there's a growing bond right now between this team and this crowd.
The shared hope and joy that exists between our players and this fan base is phenomenal. It's a really rare thing. The word special gets overused, but I dare you to find another group that's ever done what this group has done the way they've done it. And it's because Willie never changed. He was the same all the way through.
Absolutely he was. And we're setting this up. I'm setting this up this way because up next is going to be the draft, where you're going to add another top 10 pick to the mix here going into next season, where Zion Williamson will hopefully be back as well. And the excitement will continue to brew. We got a break. Here comes the Fox Business Report on Talk 107.3. Good morning, Christy. I have no idea if she's up and watching yet. Well, I know she's up, but I don't know if she's watching. All right, YouTube, what's happening, y'all? Whoa, crap, I just closed everything. There we go. Oh. All right. Yeah, Christy's in this morning. Good morning, Boo. Good morning, Renee. Yes, it's great seeing y'all at the Mercy Fair as well. Both, yeah. Eric says all good weekend fair at St. Thomas More. Moving up by a week. Y'all suck. I will tell you this. I was coming home from the Mercy Fair Saturday night, and it looked like St. Thomas More was still going. We could have snuck in an extra hour over there. Byron says, I'm not a big concert goer, but we had a ball. The energy was incredible. Morning, Clint. Welcome in. I gotta update these. crud. .624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Grabbing a couple comments off the YouTube stream. I posed the question, did Garth Brooks show up for Baton Rouge, or did Baton Rouge show up for Garth Brooks? Renee says both. Byron says, I'm not a big concert goer, but had a ball. The energy was incredible. A lot of stuff to talk about in recapping the concert. A lot of great energy coming from the concert. The incident on College Drive right near I-10 is one of concern, to say the least. But all in all, what a remarkable experience. What a remarkable weekend. It really delivered for Baton Rouge. Although there are a number of critiques, though. A lot of folks not really happy with the set list as far as calling Baton Rouge was concerned. So if you went, you know, he didn't lead with it. He didn't close with it. Around 9:30 p.m., he really underplayed it heading into it as well when it comes to calling Baton Rouge. As reported by WBRZ and everybody's Facebook feed. A little before 9:30 p.m. Saturday, Brooks posed the question to the stadium. I have to ask you, Baton Rouge, is it time? And then, boom, blasts right into calling Baton Rouge. Which, by the way, also reported became Hodson Fuller Part 2. For those that don't know what that means, earthquake. Here it is reported by WBRZ. Earthquakes are an act of God. Unless you're in southeast Louisiana, then they may be the result of tens of thousands of rowdy fans packed into Tiger Stadium. For the second time in 33 years, jumping and cheering in the stadium registered as a small earthquake on LSU's campus, according to a seismograph reading recorded during Saturday night's sold-out Garth Brooks concert. As Garth Brooks went into calling Baton Rouge to near-deafening cheers, the opening fiddle strains of the song, the unofficial anthem of Saturday nights in Death Valley, well, over at Nicholson Hall, the seismograph went off, recorded a small earthquake as the crowd sang and bounced along to the song that they've waited so many months to hear in person. Last time something like that happened, 1988, LSU Auburn, Hodson to Fuller, now known as the Earthquake Game. Was told by a couple of folks yesterday, when you could feel concrete moving underneath you, you know it's going on. Like, you could feel the stadium physically rocking. Way to embrace the moment. Make the most of it. I'm also curious for an answer to this question. How long did it take you to get home? Heard from one person they didn't get back home. They left the stadium or they got in their car about 10:30, didn't get back home until a good 2 hours later. That's a heck of a ride right there. How long were you backed up in the parking lot or in the confusion or incident on College Drive? Byron says on YouTube, I don't know where Garth gets his energy from, but I could use a big dose of it right now. Yeah, you think? I guess we all could, really. After this past weekend. Which, by the way, side note, if you were at St. Thomas More or Our Lady of Mercy, or St. Alphonsus, I'm told, had their fair over the weekend as well. Just could not have ordered up better weather all weekend long. Maybe a little bit hot, but you know what? I'll take it. A little bit of rain first thing in the morning, Sunday morning, to kind of tamp things down so you didn't have a dust bowl on Sunday. But played out perfectly across the board. So we'll be taking your comments all morning long. What was your favorite part of the show? How long were you in traffic afterwards? And really, can you imagine a better scenario for a concert? We got a lot of ground to cover on the show this morning. A couple of things I'm really looking forward to talking about. And I'm looking for my rundown right now, and I don't know what I did with it. My apologies, y'all. Give me a second. Here we go. When we have James Lee on at 8:15 this morning, looking to diving into the legislative session a little bit, because we're going to talk about teachers, we're going to talk about students, we're going to talk about money following students, and a couple of other things that are going to go along with that. But one of the things I want to talk about in this regard is, what are some hindrances of having money follow students? Because on its surface, it seems like a good idea, and I'm guessing James is going to be in favor of this as well, talk about education savings accounts. But what are some of the potential hang-ups with this? I'm going to ask him to play devil's advocate and explore the other side. Plus, we'll just have a ton of legislature to catch up on as well as that continues to roll on. Hey, I do want to take one moment to thank everybody who participated in, helped out with, and donated to the Dreams Come True Radiothon. Putting the books on this year's Radiothon and wrapped up with the end of April. Don't have totals for you yet, but I can tell you we reached all those benchmarks that unlocked the greater donations by the corporate sponsors that signed up, and y'all really came through big time. It's something we do every single year. We help the folks out at Dreams Come True. If you missed out on it, it's not like they closed down. It's just the Radiothon's over with. Check out Dreams Come True. They do fantastic work, granting dreams for local children battling life-threatening illnesses. All right, let's talk a little bit with Haggai Davis next. I was going to tap into this story, and I decided not to. I knew they were going to lead with it, so. The grand jury in East Feliciana Parish is going to determine about whether or not the parents are going to be charged in this poor girl's death that was melted into the couch. Eric says, we were parked near the engineering building. It took us an hour and a half to get to Sorority Row. As soon as it got moving, we were on the interstate quickly. The lights on Stanford definitely weren't being used correctly. That's interesting. I would say 11 p.m. got home with one stop at 2 a.m. All right. 33 years since Hodson hit number 33. That's funny. So I would like reports from people that went out campus the other way. Like you had the college drive thing slowing things down. I'm always curious as to why people don't, like, we are ridiculously addicted to the interstate in Baton Rouge. I don't understand it. Like, I know after football games, I'm there for another hour and a half, so there's a lot that gets to clear out before I even leave. but it takes me no time to get home because I zip up Nicholson to Government and then go back towards Sherwood from there. Like, I don't know why that's not a more popular route. Or conversely, like if you're, say, Southeast, if you're in the St. George area, do you take interstate or do you just take Burbank home? Those that went to the concert. And if everybody's stuck trying to take Acadian or College, because that's where you hop on the interstate at. No, it's mostly Garth Brooks on Friday. What, Saturday night? Yeah. Had no other option depending on the parking. Yeah, that's the interesting part. A lot does depend on the parking to getting out of there afterwards.
Okay, so calling or getting a call from Haggai Davis just now just kind of reminded me something. Who came up with the intro music for Tech Gumbo that used like the connected song?
They did.
They as in like Haggai?
Yeah.
Okay, well if Haggai can hear me, that song is an absolute banger. At one point, a couple weeks ago, I just randomly found it. Like I Shazammed it. I've been listening to it a lot. It's a very good song, actually.
Yeah, it is. The lights before Perkins were cycling normally. See, yeah, that doesn't seem right at all. The sound check on Friday and a little bit about a troll on Tiger droppings. Somebody was trying to troll Haggai on Tiger droppings. Yeah. Well, no, Dylan Moses is already recorded. Yeah. Yeah. .637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So heading into the weekend when Haggai Davis was here for Cup of Tech Gumbo, I was asking him if he was going to the show, and he said he was going to the sound check, and I said, of course you are. Of course the Tech Gumbo guy would go to the sound check and not the actual concert. I wanted to recap this morning, and we're going to get one. Haggai, what's happening, man?
Oh, Brian, I'm so excited. It was such a great show.
Okay, so the comparison between, and I'm sure you've heard all the reports out of the concert itself, the comparison between the sound check and the concert itself, you were telling me you got to hear Colin Baton Rouge multiple times.
I did. And so the band comes out at 7 o'clock. There's maybe 400 people all sitting in the chairs on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're listening to them. They're warming up. They're doing their different things. Their guys are flicking the lights, and the band plays, and the backup singers are singing they sing 2 songs. And we're like, oh, gee, I guess Garth is not actually going to come to the rehearsal. And, everybody's kind of sitting around. And then all of a sudden, Garth Brooks walks out. He grabs a guitar, and he starts singing. And he stayed on stage for 2 hours. And, he sang a ton of songs. He took questions from the audience.
Oh, how cool.
And, it was really, really cool. But you could see him. He was walking around touching his ear, talking to the guys back in the control booth. And, he'd go over to this side of the stage, and he's getting ready for Saturday night, looking up at this section over there, and he'd go around to the north end zone side of the stadium. And there's nobody. Everybody was on the floor between the stage and the south end zone. And so he's walking all around the stage, and he's looking back up at the lights, and he's looking at what's going on, and it was really, really cool.
It's such a unique perspective to be able to get to see that behind-the-scenes level. Was there anything you noticed that you didn't get to hear? Like, was there anything that surprised you about it that you were going to expect from a Garth Brooks show?
He didn't play Low Places.
Yeah.
But he sang. So he sang for about an hour with the band, and then Trisha Yearwood came out, and she sang a couple of songs, and then they sang a couple of duets together, and then she left, the band leaves, and then Garth walked around the stage for half an hour singing James Taylor and Keith Whitley and Ed Sheeran and Randy Travis, and just, it was really, really cool. Just him and the guitar, just singing.
And that's the kind of thing, like 102,000 people the next night did not get to see all that, which is really just kind of an off-the-books kind of fun thing.
Look, we were 10 rows from the stage. I'm just telling you, I wasn't 40 feet away from the guy. And you had asked if people were going to be able to live stream on Friday morning, and I'm sure they weren't, but I was actually able to live stream about a half hour, 45 minutes of the show. It was great.
Dude, I was shocked with the number of people that were able to go Facebook Live. My feed had at least half a dozen of them, and this was after I got home from the Mercy Fair, so it was like, it was right after calling Baton Rouge, basically.
Okay, cool.
So, but you got to hear that multiple times. Those who were there on Saturday only heard it once, so...
Well, and he would start. He would go into the middle of a song. He'd start a song, and he would stop. He'd put his hands up, and everybody would stop. And okay, wait, I didn't like the way we started that. Let's pick it up. But this time, he's probably played that song a million times. But the lead, the keyboard guy, who he introduced and said has been with him for 30 years. He said, okay, look, you started that one in G, but then you jumped into it. Are we going to climb slowly out, or are you going to jump again? It was that level of detail that really caught me off guard, where here's a song that he could play in his sleep.
Yeah.
And he's worried about individual notes coming in the song.
It's in that level of professionalism and showmanship that something as simple as a sound check and rehearsal turns into a show in and of itself.
It really was. The people who were there, the 400 people sitting on the floor, and you had to be in, LSU's invited the faculty and staff for $10 a ticket to go to the sound check thing, and it was an amazing show. It was a very, very intimate show where he's sitting there. At one point, a little 6 or 7-year-old girl walked up the aisle waving her hand, and he stopped everything and took his headset off, and she asked a question, and it was like Uncle Garth talking to his niece, and it was just the sweetest little moment, and it was a great event.
Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Haggai, while I got you here, I've got to address something that popped up in my inbox over the weekend. Maybe I misheard during a Cup of Tech Gumbo on Friday, but someone is taken to Tiger droppings, and I don't think, A, they know how to listen, and B, they don't know the word lament, what the word lament means. You and I were talking on Friday about Twitter and the EU and looking to fact check to get rid of a lot of disinformation and misinformation. I just while I've got you here, I've got to recap that topic. You got a second for me?
Yeah, sure. So, like on Friday, we were talking about, Elon Musk buying Twitter and how it's not just going to be just quite as easy as he thinks it's going to be, because he wants to just take off all of the stoppers and everybody just do what you want. And the problem is there's existing laws in Europe about content moderation, and where you can't just let everybody do everything they want to eat, at least not on the European continent.
Yeah.
And apparently this guy didn't hear us say that or didn't like the way we said it. He thought we were supporting the idea of content, moderation, or supporting the not being able to say what you want online kind of thing. And that just is amazing to me that somebody doesn't listen if they listen to the show to us on Friday, or if they listen to the show on the weekend. The one thing you will never ever know listening to Tech Gumbo is anything about our politics, because we don't discuss politics. Even when we had Bill Cassidy and Gary Graves on, we're talking about technology and laws and things, and so I'm I guess 8 years into a show, we finally get a troll.
Wait, so as much as I loathe going to Tiger Droppings, which is where he posted this up, the guy says he was talking about Twitter and lamenting how great it is that Europe is going to arbitrarily decide what is misinformation. Well, first of all, lament means to mourn, so you can't mourn how great something is. But besides that, you weren't saying it was great that Europe is going to arbitrarily decide. All you said was that Europe already has laws that do this. I don't understand how that turned into boycott everybody.
I don't either.
All right. I just want to make sure I didn't miss here on Friday.
No.
The way you're recapping is the way I remember it.
And if anybody's, you can go get the podcast. That segment is out right now. You can go and listen for yourself and hear what we said.
It's the beautiful part about what we do. Everything gets recorded. So as often as we screw up, this isn't one of them.
And use our names. Don't hide behind anonymity on some obscure
That's a whole other thing.
Page.
That's a whole other thing. In the meanwhile, I'm glad you enjoyed the show and had a great weekend. It was a cool perspective to be able to be in there with just 400 others. Haggai, I appreciate you hopping on board, man.
You bet.
Absolutely.
Right,
yep. We'll talk to you soon. Well, we'll talk to you Friday, as we'll have another Cup of Tech Gumbo coming your way this coming Friday with no shortage of topics to talk about. All right. We're going to completely shift gears here. Going to break. We'll check traffic. We'll check your money now. When we come back, Dylan Moses. He's, he popped back in Baton Rouge, looking to do a little bit of good here, helping some kids out who might be walking down the wrong path, looking to get them back on the right path on the football field. We're talking to Dylan Moses next on Talk 107.3 FM. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't think he's currently on the Jaguars roster. I don't think they've picked him back up yet for next year, but they will. Somebody's picking him up. He's a freak show. Troy says didn't go to Garth, but was at baseball. Left 5:30-ish down Nicholson towards St. Gabriel. Traffic into campus was 2 miles an hour out to Gardere. Never seen anything like it. That's LSU Florida game in '97 was one where I remember it being that bad getting into campus. And it made killing off $10 beers. It is estimated with field seating there were about 127,000 people. I want to see some ticket returns on that, though. Yeah, that would break records big time. As it stood, where it was with the 102 would have made it third in America. Did are we gonna overlap? Okay. Make sure that I head and tailed that Dylan Moses interview, right? And I think it's gonna need Bumper coming back in. Y'all actually talked to Dylan on Friday, so this is already in the can. As is Medical Monday. Okay, cool. Okay. Thank you. Over 120,000 with field seating. Anna says, with all the live and video posts, I feel like I was there. Totally. I'm going to wait till LSU posts up numbers. I haven't seen them yet. Yeah. Yeah, we got to. Well, I did that just a second ago, but yeah, we're heading into a pre-recorded interview, y'all. Joined right now by a Baton Rouge native who left for a short period of time, but is now looking to give back. Dylan Moses, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, and yourself?
Doing very well this morning. Happy to have you on and happy to be talking about what we're about to be talking about. And that is you looking to help out the youth in Baton Rouge via a football camp. Doing what you know, man. What brought this about? What got you involved?
Well, this is something that I've been wanting to do since I was, in high school. I've always wanted to come back and get back to the community in some type of way. So to be able to come back and, give like some type of guidance to the kids and be around for them to have fun and all that, that's going to be, great for me pretty much, because I'm doing my job at that point.
No, absolutely, and you get to do what you get to do. I mean, this is Dylan Moses in football, for crying out loud. What's the nature of the camp? Who's invited? Who are you looking to connect with?
Okay, so the camp will be May 7th on Saturday, and it'll be from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And right now we have 300 slots available for kids ages 8 through 14. And they can also register at www.thedylonmosesfoundation.org. I'm going to say it again, www.thedylonmosesfoundation.org. And also they can follow my Instagram, the Dylan Moses Foundation. If they want to, be kept up with any information that's coming up for the camp.
I'm pulling up the website right now to check out the foundation a little bit. What got you started on the foundation, wanting to start your own as opposed to hopping on somebody else's train?
Well, like I said, this is something I've always wanted to do, and I just figured this would be like, the first stepping stone as to like getting things done in my hometown, and then hopefully like moving it more, around the region, the southern region, and then having it across the U.S. But at the same time, like I really just want to give leeway to kids that have talent, that want to get out on the field, want to pursue their dreams, and also just put them around people that can help them. And I just feel like since I had that growing up, why I can't come back and, try and help the next kid that may need that coming up.
Your path growing up, obviously, was, freakish talent and ability, so a lot was laid out in front of you. The kids coming to this camp are probably not going to be U-High or IMG Academy Dylan Moses level there. What area are you looking to shore up for them specifically when they show up? Are we talking more football skills or life lessons?
It'll be a little bit of both. So when I come there, we'll discuss like a lot of things as far as like Q&A or life after football, mental health. The police will also be involved, involved with the camp as well. But that'll be like in certain sections, like during breaks, in times, for times whenever the kids, get done doing what they need to do for the camp, they'll be able to speak to people like me and the police or people that are educated in, mental health and stuff like that, just to help them, whenever they, get older and move throughout the community.
I want to talk about that BRPD element of this specifically because that's a relationship that if those relationships begin at a younger age, they can carry throughout life. Your attitude towards law enforcement can be developed one way, for good or for bad, very early on. How important was it for you to make sure that this was an element of your camp?
Well, I feel like this was a very important element of my camp, mainly because, there's a lot of violence in Baton Rouge. Yeah. And, I grew up here and I was able to see and experience just a lot of things, just like with friends and all that and what happened in their lives. And I just feel like, kids don't deserve that, and I feel like being able to involve the police and get them to help out with the camp will also give leeway just as far as them having a relationship and passing out cards. And, anytime a kid or one of the family members needs help, there's somebody that can, connect with. And this can be like a annual thing just as far as like my camp goes. And each year, same police come out there, same kids, and it's building relationships. So it's part of keeping the kids out the street mainly.
Up to 300 kids going to be out there. If any of them show any promising talent, how can we guarantee that you're not going to usher them off to Tuscaloosa?
Oh, no, that's definitely not something I would do. I'll tell them just like I tell my own younger brothers, you live your own life, you make your own decisions. I wouldn't, I wouldn't try to sway them on to a path that I went, because that's something I want to do. I would try and make them or have them do whatever they want to do that would make them happy.
I mean, I had to give you a little bit, Dylan. You don't come back home after wearing the crimson and not get off scot-free. There had to be a little bit. Hey, how's off-season going for you, man? What's the prospects for Dylan Moses looking like right now?
It's going pretty good. I've just been working out and training. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be going back to minicamp. So I have to pretty much get my body ready for that. And then once that's pretty much it, I'll be, heading back out to where I need to go.
How do you balance that level of off-season workout, recuperation especially, and then mixing it in with community involvement? Are you afforded a lot of windows that can give you this type of opportunity?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just as far as me, I've always been the type of person that's big on being organized and on a schedule. So I had this all planned out since last year. So whenever I came home for off season I'd be able to, fit this in my schedule and be able to do it and be able to show face and be there for the kids. So I'm really excited to go out there and do what I need to do, take pictures, answer any questions that they ask, and I don't know, just be a good influence to them.
One more time with the details on the camp before we get you out of here.
All right, so the details for the camp is May 7th. There are 300 slots open. Whatchamacallit, hold on, my bad. The website is www.dylanmosesfoundation.org, and the Instagram is the Dylan Moses Foundation.
He is Dylan Moses, finalist for the Butkus Award at one point along the way, and now looking to give back within the Baton Rouge community. I really appreciate you a couple minutes of your time, and hoping for the best this weekend. Should be a great event.
Yes, sir. Can't wait to start.
Again, my appreciation to Dylan Moses for hopping on board to talk about his upcoming camp and that interaction with BRPD. And the questions about life lessons, we've had Derry Beckwith on the show a couple times talking about that as well. Prepping yourself for success long-term, not just on the football field. And that partnership with BRPD, I was actually Lieutenant Don Coppola, who joins me every Thursday for Crime Stoppers, is the one who had set that up for me. Just really cool stuff. Glad to see him giving back a little bit. Let's get you caught up with the CBS World News Roundup at 7 o'clock. Yeah. I don't need any of that. No, and no to that too. Jackass. John Michael Higgins going to be on the show tomorrow, y'all. Bless you. He's the host of America Says on the Game Show Network. Really cool show if you haven't seen it yet. Season 5 starting up for America Says. Going to talk to him later on this morning. We'll have it played back for you tomorrow. Goodness gracious. Struggle bus today, y'all. Oh. Oh, man. Anna says, I saw the same numbers that it was over 120,000 with field seating. At 120,000 people. So would they have sold 120,000 tickets? And if so, why weren't they touting that ahead of time? I believe it, though. So the CBS World News Roundup usually covers 4 to 4.5 minutes. Sometimes it goes as long as 5. We're going on over 90 seconds, close to 2 minutes on Naomi Judd. There it is. Yeah, but like, my point is, you only have 4 minutes to cover everything happening in the world. Is Naomi, this is not a slight to Naomi Judd, may she rest in peace, but half of it, half of what's going on in the world, that level of, that window that you have to cover, half of that is Naomi Judd. I never want to, diminish someone's level of importance when they pass, but my heavens. Yep. Excuse me. Starting to feel that sour stomach. Yeah, the one that I had every day last week. Yeah. Oh. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Happy Monday, everybody! Welcome back to it. Right, big weekend across the board. Whether you were at Garth Brooks, whether you went to Jazz Fest, or went over to Lafayette for Festival International, it's just a huge happening weekend here in Baton Rouge. Ready to start the week off right. We got a lot of ground to cover here. Hey, thanks again to Haggai Davis from Tech Gumbo and a Cup of Tech Gumbo for hopping on board last hour. Talk a little bit about the sound check. I know the next night there were more than 100,000 people, so it was a bigger story. I just thought this was a cool perspective to be able to see that behind the scenes, and apparently some cool stuff happened while he was there as well that I didn't even realize. I got to check out a little bit of Haggai's live stream during it. Anyway, Troy says the coolest part of Haggai's live stream was Garth offering a job to a lighting design major that was sitting in the crowd. And apparently she was working the board on Saturday night as well. So, yeah, how cool is that? And Haggai told you the story about the little girl walking up, and all of a sudden you go from being like the biggest country star in the world to being Uncle Garth. And it wasn't actually his niece, but I don't know. Just cool stuff like that happening. In the meanwhile, we're still taking your comments, and we'll be having a discussion throughout the morning on our YouTube live stream. It's Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe while you're there. Would love to have you. The conversation continues throughout the breaks, all throughout the show. It is a different perspective, to say the least. This hour, we are going to talk with Dr. Ronald Fields in our next segment. Great conversation with Dr. Fields in our Medical Monday segment. We're talking a little bit about asthma. And believe it or not, there's some misconceptions there about what it is and how to treat it and the like. We're going to clear things up with Dr. Ronald Fields in just a minute. Also, Stephen Wagasback from LABI going to be on board at 7:35 to chat. Going to get you to top stories and trending here in just a minute. Top stories and trending presented by Complete Collision Center. Love telling you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. I love when there's folks that are here to help. Not just here to turn coin, but here to help. And that's what they do at Complete Collision Center. 768-9898. 768-9898. When I say they're here to help you. If you get into an accident, you call your insurance company and they send you to a body shop, what you're going to get is a body shop that's looking to help the insurance company. If you call Complete Collision Center, what you're going to get is the technical acumen and the know-how to make sure you are back out on the road safely. to make sure they found the hidden damage, to make sure the difference between repair and replace is all the difference should you get into another accident. There are a number of safety redundancies built into cars, crumple zones and the like, where if they're not fixed correctly, the next accident could be fatal. The next accident could be that much more detrimental. If you don't know what you're doing and you just make things pretty again and put you back out on the road, which a lot of folks do that. They get you back on the road, your car's running just fine, but it's not until it's too late that you know it wasn't fixed to the overall specifications. Complete Collision Center is certified iCar Gold Class. Puts them in the top 15% of body shops nationwide. Again, their number, 768-9898. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. Time for top stories and trending. Let's roll. Well, one of the stories we had surrounding the Garth Brooks concert, though not related to the Garth Brooks concert, traffic came to a standstill late Saturday night at College Drive and I-10 as hundreds of people circled the intersection to watch souped-up sports cars do donuts and burn rubber. Posts on social media Sunday morning were a mixture of praise for the automotive acrobatics and frustration from drivers who said they sat in gridlock for more than an hour with no apparent response from law enforcement. Well, law enforcement has responded. We read you We read you BRPD's statement in our last hour. Some videos, which appeared to be recorded between 10 p.m. Saturday and 3 a.m. Sunday, showed helicopters that appeared to circle overhead at College Drive. Not clear what agency they were affiliated with, or if they were in the air because of the car stunts or to monitor traffic leaving the Garth Brooks concert at Baton Rouge. But when you combine those two together, it made for a time-consuming traffic jam. Suspected arson destroyed a local bar on Corsi Boulevard early Sunday morning. Baton Rouge Fire said the blaze happened around about 6:45 Sunday at the Vineyard Bar and live music venue on Corsi. Crews arrived to find smoke billowing out of the building and a small fire inside. They tackled the flames by 7:15. Investigators believe the cause of the fire was arson. They found several locations where the fire was started around the building. However, several of the small fires did not fully ignite. Front of the building was heavily damaged by fire. The rest of the building sustained heavy smoke damage, according to the fire department. No injuries were sustained in this incident. If you thought baseball was a game of inches. Jordan Faircloth, candidate for the open Division E seat in the 19th JDC, is going to file for a recount, he said, after his opponent claimed victory by 2 votes in a runoff election. 2 votes. You think your vote doesn't matter? Voters on Saturday cast 6,073 ballots for Brad Myers, 6,071 for Faircloth, according to the Secretary of State's complete but unofficial results. The unofficial turnout was 9% for a total of 12,144 votes. Monday morning, we will file for a recount, Faircloth said Sunday in a statement on his campaign's Facebook page. It's common in a race this size to see a handful of votes change. Our goal is simply to make sure every eligible vote counts. That Division E seat opened up when Judge William Morvant retired last year. Baton Rouge police traffic homicide investigators over the weekend arrested 22-year-old Darian Rogers. He was booked in the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison on charges of manslaughter, aggravated flight from an officer, red light violation, and driving on the wrong side of the highway. This is in relation to a story where a woman was killed Saturday night after an erratic driver allegedly ran a red light, crashed into her vehicle while he was fleeing police. BRPD made the arrest of Rogers. Police said they attempted to stop Rogers when they noticed his vehicle speeding and driving the wrong way on Choctaw near North Acadian, nearly striking several other vehicles. Rogers reportedly fled as police turned on their lights and siren for a traffic stop. He drove into oncoming traffic, ran multiple red lights, traveled speeds an estimated of excess of 100 miles per hour, which led to the accident, the fatal crash that eventually led to his arrest. A homeless man was shot and killed on North Harrells Ferry Road Friday afternoon. BRPD identified the victim in the shooting as 18-year-old Nico Haney. They specified Haney was homeless. Police responded to reports of an unresponsive adult male in the 11,500 block of North Harrells Ferry around 1 o'clock Friday afternoon. Haney's body was discovered at the scene with an apparent gunshot wound. Now, not long after that and not too far away, there was another shooting over on the 1,700 block of Boulevard de Province. 23-year-old Jalen Carlin of North Harrells Ferry Road and 38-year-old Ryan Priest, who was homeless, were located in the area also suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. Both had succumbed to their injuries at the scene. A third male victim was transported to a local hospital with critical injuries. No further word on his status. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Yes, we talked about it last hour. 33 years later, we have another earthquake in Tiger Stadium. A seismograph in Nicholson Hall recorded a small earthquake. When? Right at the beginning of call in Baton Rouge, of course, around 9:30 p.m. Saturday, when Garth Brooks asked fans, I have to ask, Baton Rouge, is it time? Haven't seen that since 1988 when Hodson hit Fuller in the end zone and LSU beat Auburn. Those are your top stories in trending. We're taking a quick break. When we come back, let's talk asthma as part of our Medical Monday segment with Dr. Ronald Fields next. I hope I didn't run us too long. Oh, I hope I didn't run us too long. Haggai says it'd be great to have her on the show to talk about the experience. Yeah, I don't know her name, though. But you're right. Oh, wait, you meant your show or mine, Haggai? But you're right, that would be a hell of a segment. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Fields was succinct, crisp, energetic. Everything about him I appreciated. Although I'm like, bro, we like I got a full segment to fill here. No, he was really, really good. Both. Well, I'll tell you what, if you run her down, share the contact info, and I will reciprocate. So Chuck P was at the actual concert Saturday night. I was going to get him on the show, and then come to find out the Monday morning meeting is at the Baton Rouge Zoo today. So our whole company's going over there. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make it. I'm hoping I have permission to skip. Is that the zoo? Yes. Yes. This is something that I'm hoping Guarantee's doing a lot more of, taking the meeting on the road so we can get a firsthand look at the amount of renovations going on at the zoo right now is phenomenal. It's a game changer.
How so?
They're moving the entrance from the why am I forgetting the name of the street?
I don't know, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay. From that side to the other side where the park is. So that the entrance to the park becomes both the entrance to the park and zoo.
That's smart.
Is it Blunt? No, what street is that?
I'm not sure.
I don't know why I'm
remember the
brain
to the
farting on the zoo.
The BR Zoo is like such a back
It's not
road.
Blunt. It's got a person's name. Thomas Road. Good Lord, Brian. Anyway, freaking Monday brain farts. But they're moving it to the other side, which means revamping a bunch inside the zoo because you got the whole, the way it maps out for the walking path and whatnot.
You have to cater to a different entrance
now. Michael says, have you discussed the College Drive drag racing yet? Yes, I have. And we're going to discuss it more later on. Were you stuck in it? I would love to hear from somebody who was stuck in it. Was it like a whole Fast and Furious situation out there? What? It's smashed right into the...
It's time for Medical Monday, brought to you in the interest of your health by Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center.
Why, yes, it is time for Medical Monday, and this week we are talking asthma with the folks over at Our Lady of the Lake. In fact, today we are speaking with Dr. Ronald Fields. Dr. Fields, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Mr. Haldane. Thank you for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. Glad to be talking about this as well, because this is something that affects a lot of us, and, well, especially for those of us who have outdoor activities, it seems to get worse. And let's start with the absolute basics here. Here in Louisiana, it feels like there's a lot of kids that have asthma. Do we get it worse than other states?
Not necessarily worse than other states. The Northeast can actually have it a little bit worse than we can, but the South is likely the next highest prevalence.
All right, for those that do have asthma, is this something that, because we see it more in kids, is this something that gets outgrown?
Kids can actually have an abatement of their symptoms when they get into their pubescent years, and that can carry on into early adulthood. About half will actually have a resurgence of symptoms when they get into adulthood, and that can be between the ages of about 30 up until about 50 or 55 with a resurgence of symptoms.
What causes that? Do we know what triggers it? Is it, how do you know which 50% you're going to be in?
It's such a variable illness that it's not really known, because there are some genetic factors that aren't specific. There's not one genetic factor that determines asthma, but there are so many environmental factors and triggers as well, and it's not really known why.
When you think asthma, you think inhalers. Should folks with asthma, do they need to carry an inhaler all the time?
If you have a diagnosis of asthma and you are prescribed an inhaler by your physician, one should include a rescue inhaler, which is a short-acting bronchodilator, an airway opener, as it were. Mm-hmm. It should be carried with you at all times, because asthma is such a variable disease and there are so many environmental triggers. Even if you have really excellent control, at any time you could have the onset of symptoms that do need treatment with your rescue inhaler.
What are some of those triggers?
There are many that are out there. Some of the more common ones that are known are animal dander or cockroach dander. Dust and pollen, of course, are very well known to do it. Cigarette smoke, both personal use and secondhand smoke, can be triggers. Aspirin is one that can be in some who have atopic type asthma. Viruses as well.
All right, then let's go back to the top of the page. What is asthma? Because if the way you're describing it makes it sound more like an allergy.
It actually is not an allergy. People can have allergies and not have asthma. I actually am a pretty significant allergy sufferer myself. Pollen is an allergen for me, but I myself do not have asthma. Over the years, there has been attempts to try and nail down one definition for asthma, but without success. At its core, essentially, it is a disease that has variable airway obstruction with inflammation, and that induces symptoms that also vary with people with asthma.
Variable airway in say it one more time for me.
Variable airway obstruction.
Obstruction with inflammation. Can you describe what that looks like?
Sure. When people with asthma, they will get inflammation inside the airways, and at least on a microscopic level, sometimes more than that, there will be a narrowing of the airway just because of the inflammation. But also, when you feel the rings in your windpipe, so to speak, those hard areas in your windpipe, they exist all through your airways. In between those rings and lining our airways are muscles that are called smooth muscle. Those muscles can go into spasm, so-called bronchospasm, and that further can narrow the airways, and that can lead to obstruction of the airways, typically the small and medium airways.
So what's in the inhaler?
The inhalers are twofold, really, with the strategy to treat. One is called a controller medication, controller inhaler, and usually it's a combination of an inhaled steroid to decrease that inflammation we just talked about. The other is typically a long-acting bronchodilator to relax those smooth muscles. The goal with the controller medication is to lessen your symptoms and therefore lessen your need for the rescue inhaler we talked about earlier.
Mentioning some of those triggers, some of the triggers are seasonal. Is asthma seasonal?
Asthma can be seasonal, but not necessarily in the way people think. And what I mean by that, as variable as the disease is, the seasons vary for different patients. Some of my patients have more trigger from the cold, crisp air during winter, others during the spring months or even the summer months. So it can be seasonable per patient.
We're talking with Dr. Ronald Fields, talking a little bit about asthma. Now, you touched on it being partially genetic but not able to narrow it down. Parents naturally worry about everything with their kids. Should parents be worried about whether or not their kids have asthma?
Not necessarily worry, but aware that it can occur. According to the European Clinical Respiratory Journal, A child with a parent that has one parent with asthma has about a 25% risk of developing asthma, 50% if both parents do. However, it does depend on severity of the disease in the parents, also in other family members as well, and keep in mind that environmental factors will also play a role.
Is there testing ahead of time to know before you're triggered?
There's not testing ahead of time, and diagnosis of asthma is really taken globally by history and physical exam symptoms, but some generalized testing to help confirm the suspicion of the physician and the patient as to whether or not it is asthma.
How young is too young to know if they're going to be diagnosed? Or are there windows for diagnosis, basically?
Actually, there's not. It is a lifelong illness. It can occur from any time during life, and the prevalence tends to stay about the same from about age 5 up to even age 65. That's not incidence necessarily, but just the prevalence of the disease.
With that, is it deadly?
It's not as deadly as it once was because we do know more about the illness than we once did. In 2016, which is the last year that the American Lung Association has for deaths, about 3,500 people died from asthma, and it was a decrease of 41% from 1999. In 1999, the death rate was about 1.7 per 100,000 people. In 2016, it had decreased to 1 per 100,000.
Oh wow! Okay. Yeah, because anytime you see it in the movies, they always find their inhaler at the last second, right?
Yeah.
You never get to 0.0 down there. So
they also use their inhalers incorrectly.
Really?
Yeah, by and large they do. One of the things I am a stickler for in my clinic is when I see a patient for the first time, whether it's asthma or other lung disease that requires inhaler, I personally go over inhaler usage with them because by and large people tend to use them incorrectly in that they inhale rapidly. And when we do that, think about taking your car through a curve at 90. You're going to go right out the back of the curve. If you inhale on your inhaler rapidly, it's going to land in the back of your throat, whereas a slow, deep breath will help to make that curvature in our neck and get into our airways better.
We're spending a couple minutes talking about asthma with Dr. Ronald Fields. Dr. Fields, if your kid has asthma, should you encourage them into sports, keep them away from sports? Should they be exercising regularly?
Well, exercise is a known trigger for some people with asthma, and not with all. It still can be controlled, despite people are, I'm sure, aware that there is an entity out there that is called exercise-induced asthma. There have been Olympic athletes that have it that participate at a high level and win their events. If it is a known trigger with good control or medications, it may decrease the symptoms people have with exercise, and medications can be adjusted. A lot of patients as well, 15 minutes prior to exercise, if they use the rescue inhaler, can also further decrease those symptoms.
Can you do things to help your body train against asthma? For example, if you're talking about exercise, if you're talking about things that would grow lung capacity or those sorts of things, would they help you manage your way through it, or is there any, or just when you have it, you're stuck?
As far as any exercise procedures to help decrease it, I'm unaware, other than just maintaining regular exercise and doing so along with your asthma regimen with your medications.
If it affects breathing and affects getting oxygen, that could affect your blood. Are there any effects on the heart?
During exacerbation, there could be effect on the heart, particularly if you develop a low oxygen level, which is called hypoxia. If it is sustained, that could damage not just the heart but other organs.
Would that have any effect on lifespan?
Overall, if asthma is well controlled, lifespan will not be affected. Remember that we talked about 6 years ago, a total of 3,500 people in the U.S. Dying. If asthma is controlled and people stick to their asthma action plans and their medications and work with their healthcare provider, it should not affect their lifespan.
What about when asthma crosses over with other? Let me just ask it this way. We're in the midst of a pandemic. Has COVID been worse for asthma patients?
Interestingly not. At first we thought there was, but it has not proven to be so, and it gets back to that asthma control. If the disease itself has been controlled, there does not tend to be an increased risk to asthma patients with regard to COVID.
Treatment-wise, though, with the wheezing, the coughing, the constriction and whatnot, have we seen things that we've learned from asthma that could have helped with COVID?
Not that I'm aware. You have me on that one.
Okay. Well, no, I'm kind of throwing that one out there. It's just that we're hard-pressed to talk medical Monday any week without at least touching on the pandemic at some point because it's been it has been so all inclusive. Hey, before I get you out of here, folks want to learn more. Where should they go?
They could the Our Lady of the Lake website. I believe it is olrmc.com. Certainly, talking with our healthcare provider. The primary care providers are very excellent at providing asthma care and asthma education.
He is Dr. Ronald Fields with Our Lady of the Lake, spending a couple minutes with us talking about asthma on this Medical Monday. Dr. Fields, thank you so much for the time today.
Mr. Haldane, it's been my pleasure.
Greatly appreciate Dr. Fields for hopping on board. And, it's a couple of misconceptions to be cleared up there. Good stuff. Good stuff. That'll be available on demand at talk1073.com. Of course, Our Lady of the Lake presents Medical Monday every single Monday. We got news coming up in just a minute. Going to catch up with Stephen Wangersback from LABI on the back end of news, traffic, and weather. Before we hit that news, need to remind you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. They've got 2 locations. Mid-City's the big home base. Then they're out on a corner of Old Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Both locations, you're going to find the same great deals. Now, I believe the 5th annual truckload sale has concluded. That doesn't mean the deals have stopped, though. Mitch Kimball and his team always want to make sure that you get the best possible price, best possible financing, best possible overall deal that's just for you at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. All the name brand mattresses, yes, they've got them. All the different levels of size and comfort, yes, they've got them. If you look at the pillow top, they've got that. Cooling gel, yes. I went with a hybrid. Sealy, Beauty Rest, Black Label. That's what's in the Haldane house, and I got mine over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. You can as well. 4065 Florida Boulevard. Want to give them a call to get directions or find out what they've got going on? 930-5779. 930-5779. Mention you heard about it right here, and you will get free delivery and a free pillow. And not just like some $5 pillow. It's like a $40 bamboo pillow. It's really nice, actually. Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Make sure you just try them out. Go over there, lay down on a few. Fall asleep if you can. Take a nap. It's encouraged. Make sure you're getting the right mattress that's built just for you. A productive day starts with a great night's sleep. A great night's sleep starts with a great mattress, and that starts at both locations of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Let's go ahead and check CBS News, then our own local news, traffic, and weather. Then we'll get caught up with the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry next. Showing my age today. Good Lord. What, you put 100,000 people in the same spot. Yeah. I'm sure there's some folks that were hopping on local Wi-Fi's and whatnot. There's a few of them in and around Tiger Stadium. I know across the street at the Athletic Administration Building, there's, multiples. So the ones that I saw were kind of from people that they're on campus a lot. They would have that kind of info to know passwords and whatnot. Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's talk a little business. See what we're talking about today? Eric says get a bunch of cars to block the road or human bodies, right? What are we talking about? School choice and what else? Yeah, I couldn't hear you. So what did... How long do I have? How long do I have before I'm back? Woo! 738, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right back along, flying back in off of a flight of stairs. So my apologies, I'm out of breath to start off this segment. Stephen Wagensback from LABI joins us Monday. He joins us now. Stephen, good morning. How are you, sir?
Look at you, man, running steps in between breaks to get your workout going. That's impressive.
Or because I forgot some notes on my desk. Either way.
Whatever the motivation, at least you're getting some cardio in.
No, absolutely. And, yeah, I was not going to wait on the elevator because, you know, who knows how long that's going to take. Hey, why not full disclosure? I'll tell you what I went upstairs to grab. Last Wednesday, the Baton Rouge Alliance for Students put out a press release. Yep. Baton Rouge Alliance for Students Action launches interactive dashboard tracking $220 million in federal COVID-19 spending by EBR schools. Now, realizing that LABI is statewide, not just EBR, I've got to lead with this asking, can we see this be the norm and not once or twice, but interactive dashboards to track spending from all the federal dollars that came out last year? How do we grab this and replicate it?
Well, this should be the norm across the board. And, if you remember back a couple of years ago when the beginning of the Louisiana Checkbook movement began, this is something we talked about on this show. I know other groups like Cable and Pelican and others and PAR have long advocated for this concept of called the Louisiana Checkbook. Mm-hmm. And it started in Ohio as the Ohio Checkbook, and the state of Ohio has it where any citizen can go online and basically pull down specific, dollar-level spending and budgets and surpluses of any public entity there. And so in Louisiana, we're trying to implement this here. And, there's some, like the city of Baton Rouge has begun implementing this. Some of the state agencies have, and that's a continuing process. But this concept has to become the norm. And it's especially important on these federal dollars because these are one-time dollars. They have the potential to make great progress and make investments in things, but they also have the potential to lead us into problematic, shortages a couple years later when the dollars run out. And so I do think transparency is always important, but especially in these federal dollars, you want to make sure they're not wasted. Right. You want to make sure they're not inflating these programs that we can't sustain over the long haul, and you want to make sure there's no fraud around, because if there is fraud and it's not caught on the front end, Uncle Sam's going to catch you on the front end, and that's going to lead to disallowances that no one wants to deal with.
100%. 100%. So while we're talking about transparency, where else is LABI looking out for transparency right now?
Well, a big one is in the third branch of government, my friend, the judiciary. And, we started talking about this the last couple of years, and we put together some pretty in-depth research papers on judicial transparency. And you can find those on our website at labi.org. And for a handful of years now, we've been talking about, look, there's three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. And there's much transparency and ethics requirements on the executive and legislative, but the judiciary has been kind of an unknown commodity for a long time. But now there are steps being done not only in the legislature, but also in the judiciary itself to put more of their finances online, to enhance some of their ethical requirements. And, movement is happening. And this week in the legislature is the next step in that. There's a guy named Z Zarang. You've had him on your show before.
Last week.
I think, recently. And he's the chairman of the House of Probes Committee.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good guy, but also he's really grabbed on to this concept of judicial transparency. He's got two bills moving the House this year. One would require uniform reporting and disclosure of finances and budgets of all the courts, because we do have a court system that is not centralized. So you've got a Supreme Court, you got district courts, you got appellate courts, and they all kind of have their own rules of the road. He has a bill to streamline that, make it all one form that everyone can understand and disclose so people know where their dollars are going.
Mm-hmm.
He has a separate bill that's going to put up a task force that's going to review the caseload and the workload of these judicial courts, because over time we have to get a better understanding. Are we as efficient and effective as we can be? We know we have what I would call a heavy judiciary compared to other states. We have more judges per capita than most other states, especially our southern peers. And so he wants to create a task force to look at that, so that over time maybe we can refine that and use any savings we have to reinvest in the judiciary itself, to make it more transparent, to make it more technology friendly, et cetera. So Z Zarang's taking the next step this week on what's been kind of a multifaceted march the last couple of years to enhance transparency in the judiciary. And it's a good development that the state's been needing for a long time.
Is there a greater challenge with that because we elect our judges rather than appoint them?
I don't think so. I mean, if you look around the country, it's kind of a mixed bag of how people get their judges. There's an appointment process for a number of states, but there's also an election process. So we're not really out of whack. I can give you the pros and cons of both of those. The only thing that's out of whack over the years is the judiciary has made it clear that they are independent, and that the legislature has limited authority over their requiring them to do certain things when it comes to transparency and ethics. And so for a number of years, that really kept them off limits. But to give kudos, not just to the legislature for bringing this issue up, but also to the judiciary itself, there are a number of judges over the last handful of years that have stepped forward and say, no, it's time for us to modernize. And some of the improvements we've seen have actually come from within the judiciary itself. And so I think there is a growing awareness, both in the legislative branch that funds this entity, but also within the judicial branch itself, that they're ready to modernize, they're ready to become more transparent. And while I would love to see reforms happen quicker and faster, the truth is they are movement. There's movement each and every year, and we're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, it's always a tough spot because when it comes to checks and balances, checking the judiciary, it just whose job is that? And the short answer is ours.
That's right. It's the people's job. And look, if you look at the number of judges, especially at the appellate court level, let's use that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 53 appellate court judges in Louisiana. I think Kentucky has 14. I think Alabama has 10. These are states roughly our size. The state of Illinois has 48 appellate court judges. That is 5 less than us, even though they have 3 times our population. I mean, if you look at the number of appellate court judges we have in other states, we are completely heavy on that front.
Yeah.
Now, if you looked at that and the data showed, okay, well, that's okay because we have a very quick responsive judiciary, you'd say, well, maybe it's worth the investment. But the data shows that's not the case. Our caseloads are not anywhere near where they should be for that number. So the question is, over time, as retirements come up, should we look to maybe consolidate some of those courts or move some of those courts to other parts of the state? Maybe that's what needs to be done. So I think this task force that Z's putting together is to take a look at the data and say over time, okay, if we've got this many appellate court judges, should we consolidate as they retire, or should we move some of those to other parts of the state where population growth has happened over the years to maybe make it more responsive to the population needs of that area? And that's what this task force is going to look at.
Which I don't know if we can know the answer until it's been fully explored.
No, you can't, and that's okay. I mean, sometimes, whenever you do reforms in the Capitol, there's always pressure on like, oh, it better be perfect and it better hit a home run out of the park on the first pitch. And the truth is, sometimes you just got to start pointing in the right direction and see where it leads you. Yeah. And I think, this level of data and research is going to show us some things. And it might show us, we do it pretty darn good the way it is. But I think it's going to show us that there are efficiencies to be had.
Mm-hmm.
There are some redistricting opportunities that need to be done because of population movement over decades. And I think it's going to show that some of those savings can be reinvested to make the judiciary more efficient and effective than ever before. So I think it's going to show us what we need to see.
Got a couple more minutes with Stephen Wagasback. We visit every Monday. He's the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Stephen, let's talk school choice for a minute. We started off by talking with about the Baton Rouge Alliance for Students, but let's talk school choice for a minute. There are a number of bills within this legislative session moving forward that can be absolute game changers.
Yeah, look, as you know, we're excited about this, and this is another one of those things where I don't think any one of these bills alone is going to completely change the face of education. That's not realistic, nor is that the goal. But these can be targeted lifesavers for certain families in this state. And so there's a package of education savings account bills on the move this week in the House, on the House floor. You're going to see education savings account bills, 2 different ones. One for special needs children and their families,
mm-hmm.
and one for those children that are being bullied in their current environments. Give them the opportunity to make a choice to go get a different level of services at a different school if that works for their family, using nothing more than the existing dollars the state's already spending on their behalf. And so it's not one new dollar being required. There's another group on the Senate side moving by Senator Sharon Hewitt. She's got a few bills. One is to allow children in 3rd and 4th grade who are falling behind on reading scores and reading to be able to move to a different school or get different services. And then another one, allow a child in high school to be able to move high schools if the curriculum or the workforce training they're looking for isn't offered at that school but is by a neighboring school. So if you take a step back, what this means is there's a handful of bills moving, none of which are going to completely change education, but if you stack them up together, it just creates a number of tools in the tools box that different families, depending on their situation, can use to be able to have the choice and mobility that many other families have using the existing dollars that state's spending today. So it gives parents more of a control of their children's education, regardless of the circumstances. We think collectively these things have stacked up, can make a real difference in this state. And lastly, even if children don't start moving with these bills, what it does do is it creates the feeling of competition in the school system. And public schools, for the first time, will have to say, you know what, we have to start upping our game and providing services at a different level to our families if we want to keep them. Because now they're no longer stuck with us. They now have choices to move, and so we have to deliver a better product. Competition has improved every other thing we deal with in life.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me, it'll improve education also.
And what's amazing about this, though, is that you talk about whether the school is failing the student or the reading levels are being, not where they should be. That's probably going to be the one that gets the most pushback, amazingly enough.
It probably will. And look, they all get pushback. You know, the status quo system doesn't want to talk about this. You know, the school board association is gonna fight it to the death. The teacher unions will as well. I think that's unfortunate. And I think over time they're going to change their opinion once this becomes the norm around the country. But right now it's new, and they usually oppose anything new. So I get that.
Yeah.
But if you look at where Louisiana's reading scores are, we have less than 50% of our children that can read at grade level in K through 3. Think about that for a second. There's no way we're going to stop many of those kids from dropping out or becoming ineffective in the workforce down the road if we can't do a better job teaching them to read in K through 3. And so this bill by Sharon Hewitt's going to give some of those families options if they don't think the current school can help their children. I think that's a good thing for the state.
Stephen Wagersbeck, president of LABI, our guest. Stephen, before I get you out of here, did you go Saturday?
Oh, man. Did I go? It was unbelievable. I mean, just like everyone else, I think I'm walking away with rave reviews. And, you know, the whole concert was awesome. And, you know, going into that stadium and that day, that's, you know, Baton Rouge every now and then does things so right. And that was one of those days. And it was just fantastic. And then I got in traffic on the way home, and I reminded myself of the other side of Baton Rouge. But regardless of the traffic, dude, magical night. It was awesome. That stadium was electric. And it was a privilege to be there.
The way I've been asking it on the YouTube channel this morning, did Garth Brooks show up for Baton Rouge, or did Baton Rouge show up for Garth Brooks?
I think both of them should get a high five on that one, man. I think he did bring his A game, and I think the crowd gave it back to him. And we actually sat down on the field on Saturday, and literally we were pretty close. And like I felt like we were sitting on the eye. And you're sitting on the eye, and you're hearing calling Baton Rouge, and I was just spinning in circles, man. I looked at the stage half the time and the crowd the rest of the time, and I'll never forget that moment. I don't think he will either.
No, totally. And it's it's one of those nights where the magical recipe, all the ingredients were there, and it cooked to perfection.
It did, man. It did. Amen.
He is Stephen Wagersbeck, president of LABI, joins us every Monday. We always appreciate the time. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Get back to those stairs. That cardio's with
Yeah, I'm all in.
All right, see you later. Bye.
Later. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hit the outside in. Every day we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish, check on the headlines from the surrounding area. That's the outside in. Hey, before we get out of here for this break, though, I do want to touch on one thing about the school choice. He listed a number of different possibilities there where you would have eligible students or eligible groups. That special needs group is one that I think we need to explore at greater depth. So we will pick that one up and run with it at a later date. Right now, quick break, coming back with the outside in. Golly. So tired. Oh. I don't care. Yo. .755 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along, getting you to CBS News here in just a little bit. Every day by the way, thanks again to Stephen Wagasback for hopping on board, and again thanks to Dr. Ronald Fields for our Medical Monday segment. Every day we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish, we check on headlines from the surrounding area. We call it the Outside In. We're going to start off in New Orleans. NOPD says 6 people were wounded during a shootout around 10:15 Friday at the Balcony Bar on Magazine. Stray bullets hit businesses and homes blocks away. Police sources say this is just the latest in a months-long fight between a group of criminals involving a rival that they've targeted before. This according to WWL-TV. 23-year-old Nairobi Davis is believed to have been the target of the shooting. Davis was arrested as a suspect in a double murder outside a church last October. He's been a target ever since, resulting in multiple shooting incidents. Heading next to St. Landry Parish, the public is invited to pay tribute in May to a World War II soldier from St. Landry whose remains were identified nearly 80 years after his death. Army Private Hilary Swallow went missing during a mission to clear Guadalcanal of Japanese forces back in January of 1943. He was 23 years old at the time, declared killed in action in December of 1945. Now, Swallow's remains were identified in 2020 following a forensics investigation by the DPAA. Swallow's only living relative, Mary Swallow Batto, was contacted in 2018 to provide a DNA sample as the agency investigated the identity of the soldier known as Unknown X-52. Turns out he is a match, and, well, coming up on May 21st, there will be funeral services for him. Next stop, St. Martin Parish. A high school volleyball coach was arrested Saturday morning after allegedly punching a councilwoman at a political rally Friday night. According to KLFY, St. Martinville Senior High volleyball coach Lucinda Darby got into an argument with parish councilwoman Tangi Narcisse during a political rally for Mayor Melinda Mitchell at the Easy Bar and Grill. Deputies said the councilwoman told Darby this is not the place to discuss this before she was punched in the face. Darby was booked for battery charges. Over at St. Helena Parish, a school bus driver was arrested for allegedly beating a child during his Friday bus route. St. Helena Sheriff's Office was notified of a video circulating on social media that allegedly shows bus driver 72-year-old Jerome McNabb repeatedly hitting and kicking a child that was riding the bus. Officials with the school district said Friday they immediately began investigating the driver and the bus company after discovering the video. Closing out back in Lafayette, the Festival International de Louisiane announced an early closure Sunday due to ongoing lightning within a 5-mile radius to the celebration. Sunday was the last day of the 5-day-long festival to celebrate international music and arts. Attendance totals aren't in just yet, but heading into the weekend, they were looking at strong, if not record-breaking numbers. That is the outside in. We are due up for a break. Going to check CBS News, then we'll check traffic and weather heading back in on the other side. Hour 3's coming your way in just a little bit. We'll have Jake. We'll have This Day in History right after we check news right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Man. Snap. Got to shake out of it. How much fun is that? Awesome. All right. .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Jake producing. Got a busy hour this hour. Cannot wait. James Lee from Louisiana Swamp Watch going to join us in our next segment. Talk a little bit about the legislative session. Probably going to have a focus on education there. Look forward to having him on to chat a little bit in our next segment. Also this hour, today is May 2nd. Which means later on this week will be May the 5th. That would be Cinco de Mayo. The folks at Modesto are getting you ready. Sean Courtney from Go Eats is going to join me at the bottom of this hour to talk a little bit about it. Now, we start the third hour of the show every day with Jake. He takes us back in time. It's time for This Day in History.
Yes, sir! It is time for This Day in History. We're going to be kicking things off in 1939. Kind of recent for this segment, all things considered, but we're going to go in the late 30s. New York Yankee Lou Gehrig ends his 2,130 consecutive game streak. The Yanks beat the Detroit Tigers 22-2.
Yeah.
A lot of twos.
Yeah. He set himself down.
Yeah.
Gehrig did.
He's pretty good at the whole baseball thing, I think.
Yeah, he was. Hey, did you know, while you're talking baseball, let's dial it back to 1876.
What happened then?
On this day in 1876, Ross Barnes of the Chicago White Stockings hits the first home run in National League history off Cincinnati Reds' Cherokee Fisher.
Huh.
Think about that.
You know it's old when they call him the White Stockings.
Yeah.
That's
like,
way
the
back.
very first home run. Like, ball
That's
leaves
crazy.
the yard. I mean, I'm wondering, like, did they... Okay, now what?
Yeah.
Was
everyone excited, or were they just like...
Did anybody bring another ball?
Yeah, that was our only ball.
Great. Now we're done.
God, I just hope there's not Hercules the dog behind there.
That's where that was going.
That'd be rough.
Yep.
Two things happened on this day in 1945. More than 1 million German soldiers officially surrendered to the Western Allies in Italy and Austria.
Okay.
As well as 1945, World War II, the Battle of Berlin ends as Soviet Army takes Berlin and General Weidling surrenders. 1 year later, in 1946, the Battle of Alcatraz takes place, killing 2 guards and 3 inmates. Fascinating stuff if you haven't researched Alcatraz. Favorite historical landmark, more you know. It's pretty fascinating, pretty gruesome as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1957, gangster Frank Costello escapes an assassination attempt made by rival mobsters.
Okay. I'm going to have to look that one up.
Yeah. 1964, Beatles' second album goes #1 and stays #1 for 5 whole weeks. And in 1988, Reds manager Pete Rose is suspended for 30 days for pushing an umpire.
He pushed an umpire, yeah.
So you saw
blown
it.
out of proportion, yeah.
Okay. Was it valid?
Yeah.
Was he in the right to push?
You don't touch, no. You just don't touch the umpire.
Fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did he wind him up or something?
No. It's
just a hothead move from Rose.
Yep. Bumped him.
1997, Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, starring Mike Myers and Elizabeth Hurley, is released. Absolute classic of a movie. Love that movie. And in 2008, the first film in the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, released Iron Man, directed by Jon Favreau and starring Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark.
Very cool stuff.
2011, Osama bin Laden, suspected mastermind behind the September 11 attacks, and the FBI's most wanted man is killed by U.S. Special Forces in Pakistan. And in 2016, the craziest underdog story in sports history, I will be willing to say. You know, anyone can have like a crazy playoff run, but an entire season. Leicester City win the English Premier League title after starting the season at a 5,000 to 1 odds to win it all. Over 38 games. You don't just get lucky 38 times like that.
The way you were hyping that, I thought you were going to talk about something real.
Real? Come on,
No,
son.
you're talking about soccer.
That's like one of the craziest underdog stories in sports history, and you cannot convince me otherwise. That's all the events. What am I missing?
No, that was it. Bin Laden was the biggest one.
Fair enough. Let's get to the birthdays. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson turns the big 5-0. The man who bends it like himself, David Beckham, turns 47.
Oh.
Paul George, 32 years old. Popular reggaeton artist Farruko turns 31, and Pat McAfee is 35.
Yep, got Pat McAfee in there. NASCAR driver Kyle Busch, born on this day in 1985.
Very nice. What else you got?
Oh, that was it. I didn't get my normal emails. I don't know why.
Unbelievable.
I hate when that happens.
Slacking.
Yeah.
Let's get to the deaths. Only one to talk about. Leonardo Da Vinci passed on this day in 1519.
I'm add one to that. Da Vinci died today, though. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Big Da Vinci fan.
Yeah.
Love me some Leonardo Da Vinci.
Can't go wrong there. And then let's get to the holidays.
Whoa. This day in 2012, Junior Seau killed himself.
Oh.
Yeah. Former NFL inside linebacker Junior Seau commits suicide at 43 years old.
Dang.
One of the beginnings of the CTE discussions.
Much needed discussion. It's
Yeah.
a shame he had to pay before
Yeah.
that was really addressed, but rest in peace to him. Let's get to the holidays. It is International Harry Potter Day. Shout out to the Potter fans out there. And because it is the first show of the month, I got to talk about what kind of month we are in for. A lot of food. A lot of food this month. It's National Egg Month, National Hamburger Month, National Salsa Month, National Salad Month, National Barbecue Month, and then, you know, it's National Pet Month. Shout out to Brian and his family. Getting a dog sometime soon, probably.
No. You know what we do have? We have a crawfish, though.
Hey.
It's craziest thing. Like, as averse as my middle child is to, like, interacting with a dog, like, she'll get scared of dogs, but wants a dog. But, like, she'll walk up and pet a horse with no problem. And every Easter, she'll save a crawfish. Oh, she'll bring home a crawfish every single Easter.
What's his or her name?
This time around, Sunday.
Sunday?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And
We've
finally,
had previous iterations of crawfish. We had, well, there was a Friday, because we got a one on Good Friday. There was Snappy.
Very nice.
Yeah, and then my favorite was Monica.
Looking back,
You don't get that, do you?
No.
You'll Google it in the break.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, as far
Google
as
crawfish Monica, because it's Jazz Fest.
Yeah, one of my earlier memories of one of my first crawfish boils back when I lived in Texas. We saved. I was probably about 8 to 10 years old. We saved one crawfish in our bulldog at the time. We named her Chesney. We we squared them off against each other and played like they were having a 1v1. Didn't go well for the crawfish, but my was it entertaining. Anyways, finally, it is national. Well, not just national. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and that is this day in history.
Well, rather apropos to mention Junior Seau then, as those two things to intertwine. All right, we're due up for a break. When we come back, James Lee is going to join me next. Let me go let him in the building. Doing all right. Did y'all make it to Garth this weekend? No. No, we're volunteering all weekend at the Our Lady of Mercy Fair. Okay. So. Did I see you were tagging something else in the post? Because I was teasing you as being with Louisiana Swamp Watch. Is that still?
Yes, that's good.
Oh, Teachers Union and LSBA. Okay.
Yep. What we call the education swamp.
Yeah. This guy having a stroke?
I think they put a voice modulator on him. It sounds a little lower than natural.
Yeah.
I don't know who's talking right now, but that's the sound. That actual voice.
I really wanted to bring in some of our surroundings, including metal and wood together, kind of marrying our acreage or our lot, incorporating like an industrial modern look. We found the best with Mueller.
I'm Taylor Sharp at the Guarantee Media Traffic Center. Brought to you by Shaw Bills, where you can get up to $160 with the purchase of 4 eligible tires at a time. Visit ShawBillsTire.com for learn more. We have a few accidents to report for you right now, but the good news is they are all off the roadway. The first one between Avenue and Sorrel Avenue, the second Highway 19 and Main Street in Zachary, and the third Oakville Boulevard at Florida Boulevard. Again, they're all off the roadway, so no lanes of travel are blocked, and congestion should be minimal at this time. However, you do still need to keep an eye on that earlier accident, 912 eastbound at Millerville Road. It was in the roadway. They're working on getting it cleared, though, but you could run into some backups in that area. Checking out drive times, it's about 25 minutes Cuban to the 1012 split, and 20 minutes Highlands to the Mississippi River Bridge. That's the latest in the Guarantee Media Traffic Center. The reports are always brought to you by Shawbill. I'm Taylor Sharp reporting.
This one right here.
Around and back at you. Yep.
Sounds good. Appreciate you having me on again.
Do I?
Oh, I said appreciate you having me on again.
Absolutely. 817 Talk 1073 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time for us to dial back into the legislative session. Time to welcome in from Louisiana Swamp Watch, James Lee. Welcome back, man. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Brian?
Doing all right. Glad to have you back on here. Glad to be chatting a little bit about the session. Louisiana Swamp Watch. Let's reset by kind of resetting who y'all are and what you do.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah.
But at Louisiana Swamp Watch, we look at all of the different special interest organizations in the state of Louisiana that are really fighting for their own interests and not for what's best for most Louisianans. And what we're really focused on this year is what we call the education swamp. It's those groups of organizations that fight to keep the status quo in the worst-ranked public education system in the state. And tooth and nail, they will fight us on any type of reform that might improve public education in the state of Louisiana. And we think it's time that they get called out on fighting for the status quo.
Who are you looking at specifically? Because that covers a lot of ground. I mean, education-wise, you're talking everywhere from a number of different teachers' unions, one teachers' union that's not actually a union. You're talking about the individual districts themselves. Who are we looking at?
It does, and that's why reforming public education is such a challenge in the state. But you have organizations like the Louisiana School Boards Association, organizations like the Louisiana Association of School Superintendents, the Louisiana Association of Educators, the largest teachers union in the state, and the Louisiana Federation of Teachers, another large teachers union in the state. And anytime any reform is discussed, those are the organizations you can count on to see at the Capitol fighting against anything that's good for students and parents.
We're going to get into a few of the bills that y'all are looking at specifically in a minute, but I do find it amazing that, like, no matter what the proposed change is, it's always it's like automatic, like clockwork. No matter what the proposed change is, you can just set your clock to it. They're going to be opposed to it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, there's a bill up this year that would give a very limited number of students the option to leave the public education system, get an educational savings account, and get out of a failing public school. It's a very limited number of students. And if you go back and you watch the committee hearings, you'll see the complete parade of all the education swamp coming up and fighting against it. The school boards, the superintendents, all of the unions, the local school districts, the New Orleans Parish Public Schools, they're all getting up there and they're arguing against it because they know parents are fed up with the education system. The education system is failing students, and if you give those students a choice to get out of it, parents might take that choice.
Well, recent history has shown us that parents will take that choice. School choice has led to the charter school system that continues to grow. Now, if the argument is the charter school system was taking money out of schools, then something like an education savings account would only exacerbate that. But at a certain point, wouldn't the public schools need to up their game to keep up?
Absolutely. If you're scared about kids leaving schools or parents taking their kids out of your schools, start building successful schools.
Well,
stop fighting against giving parents choice and actually build successful schools, and you'll see kids stay in those public schools. And that's what's so frustrating about it is it's not about what's best for the kids. It's about what's best for the education swamp. They're going to fight against what's best for parents and kids because they care about keeping the dollars in their system.
And so when it comes down to the dollars, that's basically what it comes down to. Like, there's no, once you get there, you've kind of run ashore when it comes to the whole argument, which brings us right back around to the whole impetus behind this would be an education savings account. How would this work if it were to make its way through?
So I'm not super focused on the policy details, but basically it would give parents the choice to take the state MFP dollars that are currently allocated to the public school in their district, and they would get those dollars, I think an amount around $5,500. They would get those dollars in an education savings account that they could use for tutoring, they could use it for homeschooling, they could use it for sending their kid to a private school, they could use it to send their kid to any other education option outside of the public school. And at the end of the day, it's all of our taxpayer dollars. That money does not belong to the public school system. It doesn't belong to the teachers' unions. It doesn't belong to the school board.
Right.
It belongs to the taxpayers.
Starting with a very small group, because there's a number of different bills there, but we're starting with small groups. One of the groups is if you are a student who is behind on, and we talked with Stephen Wagersbeck about this last hour, a student who's behind on reading levels, if you're not up to par by third grade, that would be the group that say, okay, we're clearly not being served in this regard. Give me the money. I'm going to go take my business elsewhere.
Right. I mean, you're looking at students that are behind on reading levels, students that are children of foster families, military families. It's a very limited number of people, and that's why it's been so amazing to watch the education swamp come out and fight so hard against giving families this choice to get out of the worst public education system in the country. But again, for them, it's all about keeping that money in their failing system and holding on to their power and their dollars.
Now, how do we do this without being heartless? How do we do this without taking... So there are a number of different scenarios where there are kids with special needs, special education kids, that the schools that they go to, the particular curriculum that they're served, it's going to be... The argument of you're taking money out of the system actually becomes legitimate at that point. How do we make our way through this while not leaving kids in the lurch?
So I think you're leaving kids in the lurch if you don't do this.
Okay.
Again, we're looking at the worst public education system in the country. And, there's great teachers, there's great public schools across the state, but there's a lot of them that are failing. And a lot of these students that are being talked about this year are students with especially unique challenges that, might be served well in their current public school in some districts. But in a lot, they're not. And I think we're being heartless if we're not giving them that option to get out.
We're talking with James Lee from Louisiana Swamp Watch about a couple of the bills that are making their way through the legislative process. State Representative Barbara Freiberg was on the show last week. She's got a number of these educational bills. Are there any particular legislators that look to be on the right path?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Representative Freiberg is one of them. And if you look at some of the legislation that's coming up this year, it's, led by Representative Freiberg, Representative Philip DeVilliers, and even Representative Rick Edmonds from right here in Baton Rouge is leading the fight for transparency in our public school dollars, and so that you as a taxpayer can go online and look and see how your public school is spending their money. And the education swamp of the Louisiana School Boards Association, they led the fight against that legislation last year because their job is to protect the school boards. And the school boards really don't want to show taxpayers how they're spending money because in a lot of times you'd be disgusted to see how they're spending their money.
Yes, and I don't know why. In fact, last week the Baton Rouge Alliance for Students came out with a press release. This was last Wednesday that the press release came out. It said today, meaning Wednesday, Baton Rouge Alliance for Students action launched a campaign to hold EBR public schools accountable for how it spent more than $220 million in federal funding that they've received since 2021. The money, which came from federal federal pandemic relief bills, was intended primarily to help districts address the learning loss that students have experienced throughout the pandemic. Quote, transparency and accountability should be the cornerstone of our government, said Donica Duggan. She's the CEO of the Baton Rouge Alliance for Students. EBR schools received a once-in-a-generation taxpayer-funded sum to help our children recover from the learning impacts of the pandemic. In the ensuing months, they've spent or encumbered the entire amount. And we're left wondering, like, okay, spent it on what? How can we get to where we have more transparency? How can we get to have a dashboard? So I'm going to ask you, how do we get to where a press release like this is the norm and not the exception?
So I think you need to force transparency with the school boards in the state. And if you look at just the last legislative session, I think what you're going to see happen again this year is the Louisiana School Boards Association is going to launch a full court press to stop that. It passed the House and the Senate last year. When it came back in the Senate, they lost several votes because the School Boards Association launched a full-scale lobbying effort, and the governor ultimately vetoed it. But again, at the end of the day, the School Boards Association, the teachers' unions, the superintendents, their goal is not what's best for students and families. It's what's best and protects their own interests. And at the end of the day, that's why that legislation ended up getting vetoed last year. They couldn't get the votes for a veto override, because those associations, the education swamp, hold so much power in that building a mile away from here.
What are the other bills education-wise? We'll broaden out beyond that after this, but what are the other bills education-wise that we're looking at? What are the other concepts?
So obviously transparency is huge.
Yeah.
And choice is huge. There's a number of choice bills up this year that would allow families in different unique situations who might not best be served by a one-size-fits-all public school to take some of their state education dollars and go somewhere else, or even just get extra support. And so there's legislation that looks at foster families. There's legislation that looks at military families, victims of bullying. I think that's something that
the victims of bullying one is one that catches my eye a lot, because that feels like you could put everything else aside to help that.
That feels like something we should all agree on, right?
No, yeah, because like if a kid is behind on reading or a kid is behind on math, there are opportunities to make that up. Children of a military family is a different one that should be looked at separately. But when it comes to the bullying one specifically, that is inescapable from that child.
Exactly.
They don't have the opportunity to do makeup tests or extra homework or added work on the weekends or whatever. They show up to school. They go home from school. Like, it's invasive and it's inescapable.
Absolutely. And, you know, what you hear a lot from the education swamp and the opponents of giving families any level of choice to get out of the public school system is that if we just funded public schools more, well, we're the state in the South that spends the most per capita per student, and we're still failing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, their argument is always just more money in a failing system. More money doesn't fix bullying. That does not change that situation for that child.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that their argument is more money, and you still watch them go fight against something that money can never fix.
The more money thing is one of the triggers for me, because the follow-up question is, okay, fine, how much?
Right.
And why is it that every other state can do it cheaper?
Yeah.
And pay their teachers more?
I mean, you go next door to Mississippi, and I hate that I find myself so frequently pointing out things that Mississippi is now beating us on, because now it's not even thank God for Mississippi, it's thank God for Puerto Rico.
Right.
And what are we going to do when we fall behind Puerto Rico, too?
Yeah, hopefully we can, right the ship at some point. Okay, popularity of these bills, likelihood that they actually pass and make it through.
So that's what's interesting. So one of the pieces of legislation that we were talking about is the education savings accounts for foster families, military families, victims of bullying. That went through the legislature last year, passed the House 96-1. Mm-hmm. It got through 2 committees in the House without a single vote against it. Not a single person spoke against it. Got through the Senate Education Committee without a single person voting against it. The education swamp, I think, in the last year has kind of realized how much of a threat parents are to them and how much of a threat angry students are to them.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw the Virginia elections last year that was completely fought on that issue, and the candidate that was on the side of parents and students won.
Yeah.
And so this year there's been a lot more opposition. The teachers' unions, if you look, the Louisiana Education Association has more than quadrupled their political contributions in the last year leading up to legislative session. And so that same exact piece of legislation that got through the process last year with only 1 vote against it, caught 25 votes against it in the House. it caught a lot of opposition in committee because the unions, the education swamp, the school boards, and the superintendents.
Wait, just for clarification purposes, if it went through the entire session last year with only 1 or 2 votes against it the whole way, why did it fall short?
So it ran out of time in the Senate.
Okay.
Yeah, so they ran out of time in the Senate last year on it. But again, it was broadly popular last year. But this year it's become a huge fight because all of these organizations, the education swamp, has seen that they actually do have to be worried about angry parents. And so they have to take that fight in the legislature to stop from ever giving parents a choice. And you know, that they recognize that last year that was a threat to them and they didn't say anything about it. And this year they've come out full force against it. They've significantly increased their political contributions. If you look at the Republicans that were against it this year, 2 of the largest recipients of teacher union contributions.
It's amazing that when looked at through the lens of, okay, the parents want more input, the parents want more say, rather than saying, okay, what is your say? We would love to work with you. We are the public schools. We serve the public. That they would double down the fight to say, no, this is this is the way it's going to be. And in the meanwhile, if folks are more interested in Louisiana Swamp Watch, where can they go?
Louisiana Swamp Watch. Follow us on Facebook, LASwampWatch.com. Follow us on Twitter at LASwampWatch.
He is James Lee from LA Swamp Watch. We always appreciate the time, man.
Awesome.
Thank you much.
Brian.
CBS News coming your way, our own local news, traffic, weather. After that, let's talk with Sean Courtney from Go Eats next. Oh, man. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you. Yeah, it's this is one where it's tough to keep the conversation going because it's so flipping cut and dry.
It is, and honestly, like, I do get angry, like, thinking about it because, like I said, you look at, like, the one that I was talking about, the ESA bill that thinks going to go furthest in the process this year. Same exact bill that they passed last year, and they actually made some changes to address some of the concerns.
Yeah.
And the one member that voted against it last year, he says it was a mistake. He voted for it this year. But now, all of a sudden, in the House, it was a 30-minute debate of everybody saying it's going to kill public schools.
No, you're not going to kill public schools. And it's going to be a handful of people here, a handful of people there, but it's not what's being done right now. It's the canary in the coal mine for the public schools. It's the, holy crap, we've already seen charter schools take a dip out of our populace, and they're not showing any drop-off in education. In fact, a lot of them are showing increases in education. Now we're going to see where individuals can... And do what? Yes, yeah.
If a charter school fails, you close.
Imagine that, right? Yeah, if a public school
fail, when you have Park Elementary here in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. So I got into a discussion on Twitter with Mary Patricia Wright, and she actually makes very good points about something that should be addressed along the way. Now, she's dead set against the SAs, right? But her point is not invalid. She has a special needs son that has to go to a school that has to meet certain standards. You start taking money out of the system, and you're going to potentially lose meeting those standards. That is a very legitimate concern. But my question would be, why couldn't you craft legislation to protect special needs education in the process?
Right, and for every parent like that has a kid that goes to a special needs that has special needs that goes to a public school that gets services at that school, there's another parent or 2 parents with a special needs kid at a public school that isn't meeting their needs.
Right.
You can't afford to get them to another school.
You just can't make that argument without sounding heartless, though. Unless everybody gets a lifeboat, nobody gets a lifeboat.
Right. I just think it's heartless to not do that.
I know. No, it is. But it's vocalizing it makes.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at so many schools that just don't, especially in small places, they were mattered, but like
Yeah.
small places, they don't always have that option. And like the schools just like sometimes don't actually have the resources to do it. And that parent sometimes does need to take their kids somewhere else. And a lot of times they can't afford it.
Well, and here's the thing, though. You're seeing a growing number of Catholic schools take on special ed. Mercy does.
Yeah.
Dude, if we can get to the point where I've got 3 Catholic school educations under my roof right now. I got, well, counting me and my wife, 5. But like, we got tuition at SJA, 2 at Our Lady of Mercy. Maybe paying for that shit for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah.
Now, hopefully, by the time we're all done, the next generation of parents can have the money move with them. I've already looked at this as like, I pay for this education because I want it. I want my kids to have a Catholic education. It's not even about better schools. It's about a Catholic education.
Yeah, and my parents wanted a Catholic education for us. They struggled And shout out.
Same.
Send me through St. Christopher and send me through Archbishop Rummel down in Mary.
Yeah. Wait, you went to Rummel? How did I not know that?
I think we've talked about
We
this
have talked
before.
about this. I think so.
realized this before.
Yeah. What year?
14.
Okay. Too young. My cousin was 99, and I'm the only one in my family that didn't go to Rummel.
We're already starting to talk 10-year reunions. So.
Good Lord. Oh, crazy.
So 2014's been a while now.
Well, look, let's hook back up after the session's over, kind of a recap.
Cool. I
Okay?
appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks for
man.
having me.
Appreciate you.
Take care.
You too.
Yo!
Saints just signed Tyrann Matthew.
Are you kidding me? You get to break that news.
I don't know if it's. I mean, Shea Dixon just reported it, and somebody else, Ian Rappaport, just said they're about to finalize the deal. So, seems done.
Best damn way to start the week.
Yeah, I know. Unless something bad.
Sean, what's your
happens.
title over there?
I'm the director of operations for Roca and Modesto. Busy week. We have Cinco on Thursday and then Hot Art Cool Nights on Friday.
Oh, snap. Can we talk about both?
Yeah.
I know I had you
Yeah.
on to talk about Cinco, so.
Yeah, for sure. And then still recovering from Garth. That was crazy.
So, how much of a cluster was y'all's parking lot? With all the walk-on shit.
We have. We'll rope it off for events like that.
Okay.
So we'll have a kind of an attendant out there making sure everything's. Like if they're eating at the restaurant, like everybody that had a reservation was on a list. They got to park for free. And then anybody eating at the restaurant, parked for free, and it was fine.
I saw walk-ons had like the big walls up around it and all that.
It's more just like the influx of people.
Yeah.
It's like 7, 8 deep at the bar for 6 hours. It was a nightmare. We ran out of beer. We ran out of everything. We usually don't get that busy for stuff like that down there. Like LSU games is kind of hit and miss.
Yeah.
It's not 400 people in 4 hours,
Yeah, this was a.
It was wild. It's like a Beatles concert.
It lived up to its billing.
For sure.
So. And by the time you had texted back with the Twitter handle, I'd already posted my video. It was already up, so I apologize for that.
Not a problem.
8:37 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So today is May 2nd, which means before this week is out, celebrations will be had. We're going to be joined by Sean Courtney. He's the Director of Operations for Go Eats. In just a minute, I do have to reset that forecast for you before we move on. In fact, looking all the way ahead to Cinco de Mayo, might be a rainy one. We've got no real chance of rain today, tomorrow, or Wednesday. Thursday, however, 95% chance of rain. Friday, another 80% chance of rain, which is going to play into, getting out and about in Baton Rouge and having some fun. Today, we are looking at a high of 86. Overnight low tonight gets down to 70, topping out at 88 tomorrow. We're topping out at 90 on Wednesday and Thursday. Right now, we're at 75 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Okay. Sean, welcome back. How are you, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing all right. I've got to give you the floor here to break news. Like, I should be the news guy, right? But or our sister station 104.5 ESPN should be breaking sports news. But as I was discussing educational savings accounts in the last segment, you stumbled across something that would be rather pressing for the audience.
Yeah, I was just on Twitter, kind of burned some time. And it seems like the Saints should announce Tyrann Matthew signing today at some point.
Per Ian Rappaport at the Rap Sheet, the Saints are making a key post-draft addition as they've expected to sign all-pro safety Tyrann Matthew. A long-awaited signing that should be finalized in the coming days. Brings the Honey Badger back home.
Let's go.
I know.
Jerseys will be out of stock shortly.
If not already.
They get Tyson Hill to give him his number back.
Ooh. Yeah, very true. But big ad for the Saints as making some post-draft moves. All right, so this week you got Cinco de Mayo, and then you got Hot Art Cool Nights on Friday.
Down on Government Street Friday night.
Yeah,
so
Go
busy
Eats.
2 days for sure.
Go Eats is a larger family. It's not just the one restaurant. You got a couple of them under your belt.
So I'm mostly at Modesto and Roca, but we also have Izzo's and all the lit pizzas as
All
well.
the lit pizzas. Well, you know, Lit's
34
my home
restaurants.
base, right?
Yeah, people love it.
Dude, I
Very
got
affordable and
three
tons of
kids.
Great options.
I got 3 kids. You know how hard it is to find a place where you can go in and for that reasonable of a price have everybody walk out happy?
Yeah.
Yeah, no complaints. So we're going to get to Modesto and Cinco de Mayo coming up in just a second. I've got to ask you, though, based off Modesto's location, how crazy was Saturday night?
Saturday day was...
Not true.
It was interesting, for sure. No shortness of business, for sure. But it was great to see everybody, kind of come out and have a good time. It was just couldn't get the beers out fast enough.
I bet. For those that don't know, Modesto is on Burbank, in the same parking lot as Walk-Ons, which means you're just a stone's throw from Tiger Stadium or from Alex Box Stadium or from a Garth Brooks concert.
Garth Brooks, LSU baseball, softball. It's a madhouse. But we were more than ready for it.
Good deal.
It's about as good as we could have been.
All right, Cinco de Mayo in Baton Rouge. It has been a growing holiday, to say the least. It's gotten more and more popular every year. What does Modesto bring to the table?
So we tried to do this last year, but because we're still in the end of COVID, so you still had to seat at tables, and you couldn't kind of like freely walk around the space. So what we're going to do this year is kind of more of a festival situation. Chance of rain won't affect us that much. The whole event is tinted.
Okay.
Sidewalling, so it should be, if it's intermediate rain, we'll be fine. But what we're doing is, obviously the restaurant's going to be open for lunch and dinner as normal. Still have some availability for reservations, so just give us a call or book us online. But the tent will be, right when you walk in up to Modesto, you'll see it's going to be in the front of the restaurant in the parking lot. And you walk up, we're going to do, I don't know if you've ever been to Wednesday in the Square in New Orleans. They kind of do this ticketing system. So you'll walk up to the front of the tent, get ID'd, obviously. Kids are more than welcome. It's just easier for us to have wristbands for people that are over 21 and under 21. And then essentially you'll purchase tickets, and tickets is going to be our currency for inside the tent. So one ticket is $2. You can buy, I would buy like, $20 worth of tickets or $35 worth of tickets. And once you get into the tent, we'll have a bar set up in there and a kitchen set up. And you'll essentially just walk to the bar, give them 5 tickets, you'll get a margarita.
Okay.
So it kind of just eliminates the transaction process.
So it seems like it's more of a festival atmosphere than a restaurant atmosphere.
So we'll
it's not just having a big holiday.
Tops. We'll have bands and DJs all day, or starting at 3. Sorry, not all day. But it just kind of helping the flow of being able to serve as many people as possible and not having to worry about swiping a card or signing a handheld or Wi-Fi going down. So just kind of a free-flowing event. We're going to have face painting for kids. We're going to have a cornhole tournament. We're going to do, a raffle kind of throughout. So all of your tickets that you buy will be attached to a raffle ticket. And we're going to have some signed LSU merch that we've kind of gotten with Gordon McKernan on. Fingers crossed on that. And a few other things just to kind of keep it interesting and engaging throughout the day.
Now, for those that are unfamiliar with Modesto, haven't made it out to that side of campus to enjoy, the tagline is less Tex, more Mex. It's tequilas, tacos, tequila, and whiskey, which I find an interesting combo on the back end because you don't normally associate whiskey with Mexican food.
I think you associate whiskey with Baton Rouge.
Oh, absolutely, you do. So
we've had a lot of fun playing with that programming. It has some of the not as well known tequilas and whiskeys, but some of the more interesting or hard to find or more allocated to this area. So we've had fun with that programming. We still have the normal stuff, but definitely on the spirit side have some interesting things.
On the menu side, are there going to be specials for this day? Is it going to be like a triaged, narrowed down menu just to make sure you're pumping out as much as you can?
The tent block party will be kind of a narrowed down menu. But inside we'll have the full menu available. Nothing off or trying to serve everything we normally serve. As far as specials, I think for Cinco and I think for us the special thing is that we're like a Latin Mexican restaurant, so we kind of get to embrace the day and just stay really busy all day long.
Yeah.
We actually had a guy last year that was very upset because I think last year it fell on a Tuesday, and we didn't do like our crazy discount Taco Tuesday pricing.
Because it was
he writes a bad review once a month. It's pretty funny.
Oh, nice.
I was like, oh, here's that guy again.
Be on the lookout for the one guy.
One guy.
But for the overall menu for folks who haven't been out there, what can they expect that separates Modesto from the competition?
I think what we do really well is we have access to a great commissary kitchen. That's not too far away. We do handmade tortillas every day. We season and trim all of our steak in house. It's very authentic to kind of our owner Ozzy, who's kind of a Latin heritage. So I think of it's just all seasoned really well, and it's all super fresh. And we try to use the local farm as much as we can to get produce, and just kind of put a spin on a local spin on what we can do for more of a Latin menu.
I can tell you when I go, it's the barbacoa on my end. I love it.
Yeah, it's very good.
Cannot get enough.
I'm a carne asada guy myself.
Nice, very nice. Now this is just one of 2 events coming up this week. If we can move from Modesto over to Roca, it's gonna be Friday night in Mid City.
Yeah, Hot Art Cool Nights always. I mean, this will be my first one. I don't think they did it last year with COVID again.
Yeah, it was too big of a thing.
Yeah, but we'll do similar to what's the other one in the Hot Art Cool Nights, and they have the other one in the winter.
The White Light Nights?
White Light Night.
Yeah.
So it'll be very similar to that as far as setup. So if any of you guys strolled down last year, we'll have tent bands again. We'll have an outdoor bar, and an outdoor kitchen situation. Some of that stuff is going to be free samples. That's kind of like the whole point, right?
Yeah. It is. It's introducing yourself to everybody up and down Government Street. But I'm trying to think logistically. Would that be like off of Government behind y'all?
So it's going to be we have that little curbside area. Like if you go down to Government, it's on I guess it depends on what side, but on the left side of the building. So that'll also be tinted. Again, we do have reservations for that night open as well. So if you want to come in and kind of hang out, come have dinner or whatnot, we'll be full service inside, and we're going to take a couple of the frozen machines from the bar at Modesto outside, and then do some frozen different drinks in them for Hot Art Cool Nights.
Very nice.
Like a little melon limoncello frozen situation. It's real tasty. So we'll have some different offerings from the kitchen, all kind of free samples, and then the bar will have a free sample and a couple cocktails you can purchase or beer. So if you're just walking around, need a refreshment, we'll have porta potties and all that stuff. So nice little stop on the way.
Should be a jam-packed week following a jam-packed weekend. At least you'll get a couple days reprieve in the middle of it.
Everybody's closed today, so everybody's on the rest.
Yeah, nice and quieted down. Now, for the Cinco de Mayo, I apologize, I missed it. Somebody was asking me about it. Are y'all? It is reservation only ahead of time, or just roll up?
You can do both. We're going to save some space for walk-ins.
Okay.
We do also take reservations. It's going to be a little tight on the reservation side. People have just been, being prepared for weeks. But if you have any issues with the online, just give us a call tomorrow, and we'll, try to squeeze you in somewhere for sure.
It's 478-0860, if I've got that number right. 478-0860, of course, 225 area code. Or you know where to find them online at eatmodesto.com.
The 10 is just kind of a walk up,
Okay.
You don't need a reservation.
Come as you are. Come in, party.
Come in, hang out, block party.
If you want to make sure you're reserved on the inside of the restaurant, not just the tent party, that would be the phone number as well.
Even if you want to come in day of and don't have a reservation, you want to get put on the wait list, and then come hang out, and we'll let you know as soon as your table's ready. So it's a nice little overflow for that as well, for people that want to maybe grab a margarita, grab some chips, queso, salsa while they're waiting for the table. They can kind of do that and listen to some music and hang out. So.
Hey, if we could back this up a little bit overall, the Cinco de Mayo scene in Baton Rouge, like as somebody who's not in the restaurant industry, you don't obviously work in that field, it feels like it's growing in a way, it feels like it's growing in popularity to where it's going to be one of the days you mark on the calendar to make sure you're out.
Yeah, I think that's just South Louisiana in general.
Sure.
Give us a reason to have a good time. We'll figure it out. So yeah, but I think it's growing just because it's got, it's interesting to explore a different kind of culture, and we try to do that, the best we can by, a good representation of Latin food on Cinco de Mayo for us, and ideally, we'll get to serve as many people as we can.
EatModesto.com is the website. You know where to find him on Burbank. Same parking lot as Walk-Ons over there. He is Sean Courtney, the Director of Operations for Go Eats. We always appreciate you coming in, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you. We got Your Money Now coming your way in 60 seconds. Right after that, we are going to take a quick break. We'll wrap up the show after that. We'll have one more segment to go. I can't believe it's timed out this way. I can't have Eat Modesto on and then turn around and say, the countdown to summer is on, and if you're looking to trim a few pounds,
we have salad.
Did that? Oh, there you go. All right, you got salad as well. Hey, well, you know what? They say stick to the clear liquors, and that would be tequila.
That is a good.
You go Blanco on it, and you're doing all right. Go Slim Nutrition over on Blue Bonnet at Perkins Road. I actually had to miss my way in last week, which means the pressure is going to be on to make sure I'm down this week. 763-9600 is the phone number, 763-9600, GEAUX, slimbr.com is the website. I dropped 60 pounds with Go Slim. My next step is to go redo the wardrobe because everything I wear looks like a parasail at this point. Look, not only did I lose the weight, but I lost the weight the right way. I lost the weight by learning habits that were going to stick with me throughout. This isn't something that's just some random crash yo-yo diet. You build the right eating habits. You build the right lifestyle habits. It's not just about the food. You go over your water intake. You go over your weekly exercise. You go over your sleep. You go over all of it. GEAUXSlimBR.com, 763-9600, or just swing by Blue Bonnet at Perkins. It's Go Slim Nutrition. All right, quick break for Your Money Now. We'll check traffic one more time. Close it out next on Talk 107.3. Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
And good luck this week. It's should be fun.
Take a nap today at some point.
I bet. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Sean. All right, let's address a couple comments on the education topic because I want to close out talking Garth Brooks again. It was the lead of the day, and there's no way I don't revisit it. Okay, Galen says public education is a failing behemoth. The only feasible way to reform it is to create a competitive environment using charter schools. Okay, but using charter schools is not your traditional public education. And I think the problem, wait, first of all, 1,000% agree. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. The problem is, in the grand scheme of world history, the idea of free public education is a relatively new one that came along, that followed the democracy that is America, right? But the concept of a free public education in the grand scheme of world history is a new one. So to think that we could write the blueprint and have nothing wrong with it moving forward forever, changes in the economy, moving from an agrarian society to an industrial society to an information society, like changes in the way we handle our business, changes in the way we handle our lives, changes in the family structure for better or for worse. All these things have resulted in needing a new way to approach education. And the problem is every time you try to adapt, I'll say it, you're called a racist. That's the long and the short of it. You're called a racist or an elitist or whatever. Oh, you don't want public school? No, I do want public school. I want everyone to succeed. But yeah, to think the level of hubris that it takes to think we can write the plan once and be done with it for the rest of all eternity is just stupid. Troy says, Galen, I agree. We are not likely to cause public schools to perform better with ESAs if they haven't already with charter schools. We need widespread improvement like charters, not death by 1,000 cuts. Yes. Thomas Sowell has frequently written about this topic and empirically points out that the problem is not with the traditional excuses, spending, family, poverty, race, etc. But then where is the problem? The problem is in those middle lines of the budget. It's not the top line and it's not the bottom line. It's the crap down the middle, and that's where the bureaucracy comes in. Oh, man. Yeah, there's no other way around it. It just... You going to the zoo? That's where the Monday morning meeting is. Yeah. Yeah. I'm debating whether or not I want to try to haul ass over there. I don't think I'll make it.
Yeah, I don't think Gordy has my correct email. Like, I always get emails from Chris
Yeah.
when the meetings are canceled.
Yeah.
And I don't get emails from Gordy when they move. Because it was originally Guaranteed Core.
Yeah.
And then they had to switch it to
Guarantee Media, yeah.
Yeah, I never know where the meetings go.
Okay.
Never trying to go.
Yeah, I don't. If you left now, right? Yeah.
If I leave now, I can get there like right when it ends. I mean, if anybody knows the traffic right now, it's the person in front of me. There wasn't nothing in North Baton Rouge today, man.
Do what?
Nothing occurred in the North Baton Rouge bakery area.
I wasn't paying attention. What happened?
No, he said if anybody knows the traffic situation.
Oh.
I was like, nothing happened up there.
You know, that's something that I'm always curious about. Like, nobody's listening to talk radio at that time except for that one ass that wants to make a thing on Haggai. But like,
You saw that?
yeah,
Where'd you see it?
Somebody let me know it was on Tiger Droppings,
That's where I saw it.
and so I went to Tiger Droppings and found it, and that's totally not what Haggai said. It wasn't even close. Well, now I got to figure out which one you are. He's good. It's a cesspool. It's terrible.
It's a great place. Like, you ever just want to read a bunch of people with mental illnesses? That's literally what
It is one of Dante's circles of hell, is what it is. It's, yeah. It's all anonymous a-holes who are all in the know. Yeah.
But the reality is, anyone who says they're in the know is not.
Right. Yeah. $8:56, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. One segment to go before we get on out of here. Hey, thanks again to Haggai Davis, thanks to Dylan Moses, thanks to Dr. Ronald Fields, Stephen Wagersbach, James Lee, and Sean Courtney. Stacked up guest list today. Going to have a stacked up guest list tomorrow. I don't have it in front of me, though, so I probably shouldn't tease it. Congressman Troy Carter is slated to join us. I do know that. And, yep, nope, not going to tease it because I don't have it based off of memory. Before we get out of here, I want to revisit Garth Brooks just one more time. And so, admittedly, I was not there, but damn near everybody I talked to yesterday was. And there seemed to be this feeling that they wish they would have gotten more out of Calling Baton Rouge. Like the rest of the show, the energy the whole night was electric. As soon as you heard the fiddles fire up for Calling Baton Rouge, that was, well, it was seismic. And that's not hyperbole. But there was a lot that there were a number of folks who were there Saturday night that said yesterday, kind of wish he would have circled back to it. And I was presented with this possible encore. If you're Garth Brooks, why not come back out for an encore, have the band fire it up, and you don't sing? Why not come back out for an encore, post up a tailgate chair, sit down and just hold a microphone out, and let reports of 120,000, 102,000 plus do the singing for you? How great, how epic, how historic would that have been? Garth wasn't even singing. We were all singing. To Calling Baton Rouge, of course. I also heard that I don't know if I should even do this because it's so vague that if you weren't there, you're probably not going to know about it. But for those who were there, I heard he opened up quite a bit about, what was her name in the song? Samantha? How many dudes in the audience looked at their significant other after he gave that story and said, "See? It happens!" Anyway, surrounding the Garth Brooks concert, about the only takeaways that were negative was the traffic afterwards. So we might explore that more in the future. I do know I want to take a closer look as the week wears on with what went on College Drive. Now, all indications are what was happening on College Drive was not in relation to the Garth Brooks concert, but some kind of Fast and Furious scenario playing out. If you live in Sherwood or Broadmoor, you know this is not an unusual occurrence. Drag races happen up Florida Boulevard darn near every weekend. And these sorts of quote-unquote performances are not unusual. But we had the story from WBRZ. We had the statement from Baton Rouge Police. I'd like to know if you were stuck in it. Were you able to see something that's different from being reported? Because BRPD said, and I quote, "Action has been taken in the past. We have made arrests, towed vehicles, seized weapons, and issued citations." Was this that? If you were stuck in the traffic, did you realize it might have been more than just quote-unquote traffic? All right, we got to get out of here. The Fox News Rundown's next. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, YouTube, I'm going to try and blast out. I don't know if I'm even going to make it or if I'm wasting my time, but I will see y'all tomorrow. Have a great one. Later on.